In the quiet moments when the world settles into stillness, the human body continues its gentle work, carrying out countless processes that sustain life without ever asking for attention. Breathing moves in and out like a tide, the heart keeps its steady rhythm, and deep within the tissues, nerves, hum softly with signals that rise and fall like distant currents. This quiet interior world is where the story of sensation begins, a place of subtle exchanges and continuous communication that you may not notice consciously. Yet it shapes every experience you have. As you settle into a comfortable position and let your breathing slow, you can imagine this inner landscape unfolding, layer by layer, revealing the intricate systems that help you navigate the environment around you and the world within. Sensation, in its broadest sense, is the way the body gathers information, a gentle and constant dialogue between your tissues and your mind. Every second, receptors just beneath the skin register pressure, warmth, texture, and movement. Deeper inside, other receptors monitor muscle tension, joint position, the stretch of the lungs, and even the quiet chemical changes flowing through the bloodstream. These messages travel along delicate pathways, invisible to the eye yet astonishingly organized. They move with purpose, carrying signals upward toward the spinal cord and then into the brain, where they are interpreted in a space that feels both immediate and expansive. This internal communication mirrors the broader truth of the human body that all its parts operate in harmony, each system supporting the others in a continuous rhythm of cooperation. This concept of connection is central to understanding pain and perception, because neither happens in isolation. The nervous system may gather and transmit signals, but it works hand in hand with the endocrine system, the circulatory system, and even the body's emotional centers, forming a complete and unified experience. When you think about the sense of touch or any other form of sensation, it may seem like a simple process, but beneath the surface lies a remarkable architecture built from countless cells. Each cell contributes something small yet essential, a pattern echoed throughout biology, where tiny units combine into broader, organized structures. At the cellular level, sensory neurons extend long, slender fibers, the axons that carry information efficiently and precisely. Their branches reach outward, forming networks much like the roots and branches of a tree, gathering signals from the environment. These neurons operate alongside glial cells, which support, nourish, and protect them. Together, they form the communication network that allows the body to detect and respond to its surroundings. Although neurons differ widely in size and shape, all share the same role of transmitting information from one place to another, maintaining constant communication across the body. This delicate arrangement reflects something essential about the way the body is built, where structure and function are subtly intertwined, each one shaping the other with quiet precision. All of this complexity remains hidden beneath the skin, allowing you to move through the world without needing to think about every sensation or response. When your foot touches the ground, for example, pressure receptors become activated instantly, yet at the same time, deeper receptors note the position of joints and the tension in muscles, allowing the brain to form a complete map of where the body is in space. This sense of internal awareness helps you maintain balance and posture even without looking, a kind of silent guidance system working in the background. Such processes unfold in just fractions of a second, yet their reliability is the result of millions of years of refinement. They reflect the body's constant attempt to maintain homeostasis, a stable internal environment where each system supports the others. Whether regulating temperature, balancing fluids, or responding to subtle shifts in the environment, the body is always adjusting itself, making small changes that keep everything functioning smoothly. This stability is essential not only for sensation, but for life itself, and it allows the nervous system to work with remarkable clarity and precision. In this quiet internal world, the brain plays a central role, acting as the interpreter of signals. The brain does not simply receive messages, it evaluates, contextualizes, and shapes them, forming the perception that eventually reaches your awareness. Two people can feel the same physical stimulus, yet experience it differently because perception depends on much more than raw sensory input. The brain brings in memory, emotional state, past experiences, personal expectations, and even surrounding context to create what you ultimately feel. This is why the warmth of a blanket may feel soothing at the end of a long day, or why gentle pressure on the shoulder can feel reassuring when offered by someone familiar. These sensations are not just physical, they are layered with meaning, shaped by the mind's careful integration of both internal and external information. This blending of signals and interpretation is part of what makes human perception so rich and varied. A subtle interplay between the body and the conscious mind. Even something as simple as the feeling of calmness settling into the body at night involves layers of sensory experience that unfold quietly beneath awareness. The nervous system begins to shift, guided by hormonal cues from the endocrine system that encourage the body toward rest. Muscles relax, breathing slows, and the brain transitions into a state where it becomes more receptive to soothing sensory input. Gentle sounds seem softer, warm air feels more comforting, and the mind begins to drift. These subtle transitions reflect how deeply intertwined the senses are with the body's internal rhythms. They demonstrate the way sensory information interacts with mental states, shaping mood and perception in ways that feel both natural and effortless. None of these processes are consciously directed. They happen because the body is built to respond to its environment, adjusting itself with remarkable flexibility. When we speak about sensation, we often focus on the senses that connect us to the outside world: touch, temperature, sound, sight, and smell. Yet the body also has a vast internal sensory network that monitors everything happening within. These internal senses, sometimes called interoception, allow you to feel hunger, fullness, thirst, heartbeat, and even subtle changes in breathing. They form an internal narrative that guides your behavior gently throughout the day. Paired with the external senses, they create a complete picture of existence that is both stable and dynamic. The interplay between these systems becomes especially important when understanding pain, which arises from the body's attempt to communicate something significant. Pain is not just a physical sensation. It is a form of internal messaging that draws the brain's attention to a particular place or process. But for now, as we remain in this introductory space, the focus is simply on appreciating the remarkable sensitivity of the body and the quiet elegance with which it communicates. As you rest and let the mind drift, you can imagine the body's sensory world as a soft network of pathways. Every touch, every shift of breath, every internal change produces a signal that rises gently toward awareness. Most of these signals are too faint to notice, filtered by the brain, so your conscious mind can remain calm and focused. Only a small fraction ever reaches your attention, and even then, the brain decides how to interpret them. This delicate balance of attention and sensation creates the continuous background hum of experience that accompanies you throughout life. When viewed through this lens, the sensory system becomes less of a mechanical process and more of an ongoing conversation, quiet, adaptive, and deeply attuned to your needs. In the stillness of this moment, the inner landscape becomes easier to imagine. A vast network of cells working in harmony, a brain processing signals with clarity and care, a body maintaining balance and stability through endless micro-adjustments. This is the foundation upon which the science of pain and perception rests, a gentle, interconnected system that supports you every moment, whether you are awake, dreaming, or drifting softly into sleep. To what pain truly is, a quiet biological message. Pain, at its deepest level, is often misunderstood. In everyday language, it may be described as something harsh or unwelcome. a sensation people try to avoid whenever possible. Yet within the silent workings of the human body, pain is not an enemy. It is a messenger, a natural signal that gently alerts the mind that something within or around the body requires attention. Without pain, the world would be far more dangerous, because the body would have no way of indicating when tissue is strained, when heat is too intense, when pressure becomes harmful, or when an internal organ is quietly struggling. Pain, in its essence, is communication. It is the body reaching out to the mind in a whisper that sometimes becomes a murmur and sometimes grows into something louder, depending on the importance of the Buddha's message. But even in its louder forms, pain is still part of the body's attempt to maintain balance, to preserve structure. To understand pain in a calm and grounded way, it helps to picture the body as a network of attentive guardians, each one constantly sensing the world. Within the skin, deep inside muscles, along the organs, and near the joints, are small. Most of the time they remain quiet, simply waiting. But when they detect something that could damage tissue, perhaps a sharp object, extreme heat, intense cold, or chemical irritation, they begin to send signals along sensory nerves. These signals move not as frantic alarms but as carefully shaped impulses, traveling through the long fibers of neurons toward the spinal cord. Even at this earliest stage, pain is not simply a sensation. It is an assessment and evaluation of what the body is experiencing and whether it requires a response. When these signals reach the spinal cord, something remarkable happens. Instead of immediately racing upward to the brain, the information is modulated, filtered, and shaped. The spinal cord acts as a gateway, a place where signals can be amplified, softened, or even redirected. Certain neurons in the spinal cord can enhance the perception of danger, increasing the intensity of the signal, while others can dampen the signal, reducing how much the mind becomes aware of. This balance is constantly shifting, because the spinal cord responds not only to signals coming from the body, but also to signals descending from the brain. If the mind is relaxed and calm, the descending pathways can soften the incoming messages. If the mind is stressed, exhausted, or overwhelmed, the descending pathways may lessen their calming influence, allowing pain to feel sharper or more insistent. This dynamic relationship between body and mind ensures that pain is never simply a physical process, but always a combined interpretation shaped by multiple systems working together. As the signals travel upward toward the brain, they pass through several regions that help organize, prioritize, and interpret them. One of the first destinations is the thalamus, a structure often described as a relay station, but which functions more like a thoughtful organizer. The thalamus distributes sensory signals to different areas of the brain, directing some to regions responsible for identifying location, some to areas responsible for evaluating intensity, and some to deeper structures tied to emotion and memory. Because of this, pain often has layers. It may begin as a physical sensation, sharpness, pressure, throbbing, or heat, but it is immediately colored by emotional tone. A familiar pain may feel different from an unexpected one. A discomfort experienced in a safe environment may feel gentler than the same discomfort felt in a stressful moment. These emotional layers do not diminish the reality of pain. Instead, they reveal how intimately the body and mind are connected, how perception is shaped by both physical and emotional experience. The brain's somatosensory cortex plays an important role in identifying where pain is coming from. It forms a map of the body, allowing the brain to localize sensations with surprising accuracy. When pain arises from the hand, the region of the cortex responsible for the hand becomes active. When pain arises from the foot, a different region lights up. This mapping is flexible, changing throughout life based on experience, injury, or repetition. It reflects the brain's remarkable ability to reorganize itself. a concept known as neuroplasticity. Because of this adaptability, pain perception can change over time. Signals that once felt intense may soften as the nervous system recalibrates, while signals that were once faint may grow stronger if the brain begins to interpret them with greater significance. This shifting perception reveals that pain is not merely input, it is also interpretation, shaped by patterns that the nervous system continues to refine. Another key structure involved in pain perception is the limbic system, a set of regions responsible for emotion, memory, and internal rhythms. When pain enters this part of the brain, it gains meaning. A minor discomfort may feel unimportant or fleeting, while another pain of similar intensity may feel overwhelming because of its associations. Pain linked to a past injury may stir memories, while pain connected to fear may acquire emotional weight even before the sensation fully reaches awareness. This emotional coloring is not a flaw in the system. It is an adaptive feature that helps the brain evaluate how to respond. If the pain carries emotional urgency, if the pain feels familiar and harmless, the brain may allow life to continue with little interruption. Through this blending of sensation and emotion, the brain creates a complete picture of the experience, one that helps guide behavior in ways that support safety and healing. Because pain is so deeply connected to context, its perception can be influenced by surroundings, thoughts, expectations, and even simple attention. When the mind focuses intently on something else, perhaps a soothing sound, a gentle rhythm, or a calming environment, the perception of pain can soften. Certain regions of the brain begin to shift activity, releasing natural chemicals known as endorphins and enkephalins that act like gentle modulators. These chemicals bind to receptors in the nervous system, reducing the strength of pain signals and introducing a sense of comfort and ease. The body produces these chemicals naturally, often during moments of rest, deep breathing, or calm emotional states. Their presence demonstrates that the nervous system is not only capable of transmitting pain, but also capable of easing it, shaping experience in ways that support recovery and balance. Pain can vary widely in character. Sometimes it arrives suddenly, sharp and clear, guiding the body away from harm. Sometimes it arises slowly, as a gentle ache that grows more noticeable over time. Other times, pain persists long after the initial cause has healed, forming patterns that reflect the nervous system's memory rather than the body's immediate condition. This persistent form of pain is complex, influenced by changes in nerve pathways, inflammation, emotional memory, and even immune responses. Yet even in these lingering forms, pain continues to serve as communication. It reflects the nervous system's attempt to interpret ongoing signals, sometimes becoming overprotective, sometimes misinterpreting signals that once had meaning but no longer indicate harm. In these situations, the body and mind continue their dialogue, slowly relearning how to sort meaningful signals from those that can be softened. Understanding pain as communication helps create a more compassionate view of the experience. Instead of seeing pain as a harsh interruption, it becomes clearer that pain is part of the body's natural intelligence. It is a form of awareness, a way the body ensures that attention is given to areas that need care. Whether the sensation is brief or lasting, mild or intense, it emerges from systems designed to protect, guide, and maintain balance. Even when pain feels unwelcome, its presence reflects the body's commitment to preserving function and well-being. In the quiet moments of reflection, it becomes easier to imagine pain not as a sharp intrusion but as part of the body's continuous conversation with itself. Signals rise from tissues, travel along pathways that have been shaped over years, move through the spinal cord, and reach the brain where meaning is assigned. At every step in this journey, there is modulation, interpretation, and adaptation. This layered process transforms simple impulses into the rich and varied experience known as pain. And when viewed in the soft light of this understanding, pain becomes less of an opposing force and more of a messenger, one that guides the body gently toward awareness, healing, and balance. 3. The body's hidden network. Nerves as messengers. Throughout the body, woven into every layer of tissue, lies an intricate network that rarely draws attention to itself, yet it shapes every moment of experience. This network is the nervous system, an endlessly branching web of connections that gathers information from the world and carries it toward the quiet center of awareness. To imagine this system is to picture a vast landscape of delicate threads stretching from the skin to the spine, from the organs to the brain, from the muscles to the fingertips. These threads are the nerves, and they operate like soft messengers, moving signals with such efficiency and subtlety that most of their work unfolds without conscious notice. Even now, as you breathe calmly and let the body settle, these pathways are at work, carrying gentle messages about temperature, pressure, internal balance, and the quiet rhythm of life within. At the heart of this network are neurons, the specialized cells that transmit signals. Each neuron possesses its own shape, length, and chemical properties, yet all abide by the same fundamental pattern. A central cell body houses the nucleus and performs essential cellular functions. From this body extend branching structures, called dendrites, which receive messages, much like leaves collecting sunlight. From another point extends the axon, a long, slender fiber that carries impulses outward, sometimes traveling astonishing distances with seamless precision. Some axons stretch only a fraction of a centimeter, while others reach from the spine all the way to the feet, conveying signals across the entire length of the body. These variations in size and structure reflect how adaptable the nervous system is, capable of shaping itself to the needs of different regions and functions. Wrapped around many axons is a protective substance called myelin, which acts as insulation and dramatically increases the speed of signal transmission. Myelin allows the impulse to leap from one exposed point on the axon to another in a rhythm known as saltatory conduction. This leaping motion gives the signal its swift, almost effortless travel, allowing the body to respond to stimuli with remarkable speed. When you brush against something cool or warm, when a muscle contracts, or when balance shifts slightly during movement, the presence of myelin ensures that signals move quickly enough for the body to adjust in an instant. But even the axons without myelin have their own quiet purpose, carrying slower, deeper sensations that contribute to the body's more diffused sense of presence. These neurons do not function alone. They exist in dense networks supported by glial cells, which nourish, repair, and protect the delicate neural structures. Glial cells maintain the chemical environment around neurons, remove debris, and help insulate pathways. Without them, neurons would struggle to survive, let alone transmit signals efficiently. They form an unseen foundation for neural activity, steady and constant, much like the soft soil beneath a forest floor that supports the entire ecosystem above it. This partnership between neurons and glial cells underscores a broader theme in the body. Nothing functions independently. Systems and structures work together in harmonies so finely tuned that their cooperation becomes almost invisible. Every sensation you feel begins with a stimulus, something in the environment or within the body that activates sensory receptors. These receptors come in many forms, each tuned to a specific type of information. Mechanoreceptors respond to pressure and movement. Thermoreceptors respond to changes in temperature. Nociceptors respond to potential or actual tissue damage. Each receptor type converts physical or chemical changes into electrical signals. These signals then travel along sensory neurons, beginning a journey that moves steadily toward the spinal cord. Because these pathways are so sensitive, even the slightest pressure on the skin or the smallest shift in muscle tension can activate them. As signals enter the spinal cord, they encounter an important crossroads. The spinal cord is not just a highway of information, but also a processing center. Here, Sensory neurons communicate with interneurons, compact cells that help shape and refine the message. Some signals may be sent upward immediately toward the brain. Others may be partially processed at the spinal level, especially if they relate to reflexive actions that require quick responses. The spinal cord's gray matter contains neural circuits that allow reflexes to occur without waiting for the brain's involvement. When you pull your hand away from something sharp or hot, this movement is guided first by the spinal cord, protecting the body even before conscious perception forms. Although reflexes are swift and protective, most sensory information continues its path upward toward the brain, traveling along ascending tracks that carry different types of signals to specific destinations. Some pathways carry touch and pressure information, others carry temperature sensations, and others deliver signals related to pain or internal needs. These tracks run parallel, forming organized routes much like quiet rivers flowing toward a central sea. Their flow is constant and uninterrupted, and yet the mind is not overwhelmed by this stream of information. Instead, filtering processes at the spinal and brainstem levels ensure that only the most relevant signals reach awareness. Once the signals rise above the spinal cord, they flow into the brain, entering regions that evaluate, sort, and interpret them. The thalamus, a deep central structure, receives the majority of sensory signals and directs them to the appropriate cortical areas. Here the map of the body begins to take shape. The somatosensory cortex, located along the surface of the brain, contains a detailed representation of the body, with each region corresponding to a particular part of the skin or deeper tissues. When a signal arrives from the hand, the region mapped to the hand becomes active. When a message arrives from the face or foot, different regions respond. This orderly mapping ensures that the brain always knows where sensations originate, allowing it to form a coherent understanding of the body's condition. Yet the brain also does something far more subtle. Beyond simply identifying where sensations come from, it interprets their meaning. Signals related to pressure may be interpreted as comfort, closeness, or safety depending on context. Warmth may feel soothing or invigorating. A gentle ache may be perceived as tension releasing or as the body asking for rest. All of these interpretations come from a combination of physical signals and the brain's own understanding, shaped by memory, emotion, and experience. This is why perception can shift so easily depending on mood, environment, or attention. The nervous system's messages remain consistent, but the mind's interpretation can softly transform the experience. The relationship between nerves and perception becomes even more intricate when considering how internal sensations influence awareness. Inside the body, special receptors monitor the stretch of the lungs, the fullness of the stomach, the concentration of certain chemicals in the blood, and the rhythm of the heartbeat. These internal messages travel through separate pathways, yet ultimately join the same broad network that shapes conscious perception. Interoception, the sense of the body's internal state, helps you recognize hunger, thirst, fatigue, and calmness. It allows you to sense when breath deepens or when the heart slows, guiding your emotional and physical rhythms in gentle cycles. All of these systems, the sensory receptors, the spinal pathways, the ascending tracts, the cortical maps, and the interoceptive networks work together to create a unified picture of the body moment by moment. The nervous system does not rest. It continues its quiet vigilance even when the conscious mind drifts into sleep. It monitors the environment for temperature changes, sounds, pressure shifts, and internal fluctuations, adjusting the body's responses automatically. This constant flow of information allows the body to maintain balance, to protect itself gently, adapt to subtle changes with ease. In the soft quiet of the nervous system's workings, there is harmony. Signals travel with purpose, cells communicate with calm precision, and the brain weaves these messages into the tapestry of perception. Through this delicate network, the body remains aware of its surroundings and of itself, forming a continuous experience that supports both survival and comfort. As you imagine this hidden network, you may sense the peaceful intelligence of the body, an intelligence that communicates carefully, responds patiently, and carries you through each moment with steady, quiet guidance. 4. The journey of a signal. How sensation travels to the brain. The journey of a sensory signal begins long before it reaches the conscious mind, long before the brain forms an interpretation, and even long before the body adjusts in response. It begins quietly at the very surface of the skin or deep within the tissues, where countless receptors lie waiting. These receptors are always present, always attentive, yet they act with a kind of restraint. They do not fire constantly or without need. Instead, they respond only when the body encounters something meaningful, an unexpected shift in temperature, a gentle brush against the skin, a change in pressure, or the slightest edge of discomfort. When such a stimulus is detected, the receptor transforms this physical event into a small electrical impulse, the beginning of a journey that will carry the signal through the body's elaborate communication pathways. In this early step, the receptor's role is simple but essential: to convert a physical experience into a language the nervous system understands. As the electrical impulse forms, it flows into the sensory neuron connected to the receptor. This neuron may be located at the periphery of the body, near the skin, or nestled within muscle fibers. Its long axon acts as a slender pathway, extending sometimes great distances to reach the spinal cord. The impulse travels along the axon in a smooth, wave-like motion governed by tiny shifts in ion concentrations. Sodium flows inward, potassium flows outward, and the electrical charge moves forward in a pulse. This movement is rhythmic, almost serene, as though the signal glides forward without strain, propelled by the cell's natural properties. If the axon is wrapped in myelin, the impulse travels even more efficiently, skipping from node to node along the fiber, making its journey faster and more precise. Even in this small stretch from receptor to spinal cord, the signal is shaped by the characteristics of the neuron carrying it: its thickness, its myelin, its length, and even its branching patterns. When the signal finally reaches the spinal cord, it enters a new environment. Here, within the protective columns of vertebrae, it receives the incoming signal and determines its immediate priority. Some signals are directed upward toward the brain for interpretation, while others are handled directly at the spinal level. Reflexes are one example of this immediate handling. If a stimulus poses potential harm, such as a sharp object or excessive heat, the spinal cord can initiate a response before the brain is even aware. Muscles may contract, withdrawing the affected area quickly, an act of protection guided by the spinal circuitry. This reflexive action allows the body to respond in a fraction of a second, demonstrating the spinal cord's vital role as a gatekeeper and first responder in the sensory system. Yet even as reflexes occur, the signal is usually not stopped. Most sensory impulses continue their ascent toward the brain through specific pathways known as ascending tracks. These tracks are highly organized, each one responsible for carrying a particular type of information. Some tracks specialize in touch, others in vibration or pressure, others in temperature, and others in pain. Two major pathways dominate this upward travel: the dorsal column, medial lemniscus pathway, and the spinothalamic tract. The dorsal column pathway carries fine touch and proprioceptive signals, the sensations that allow you to sense texture and know where your body is positioned. The spinothalamic tract carries information about temperature and pain. Each signal follows its designated route with precision, moving through the white matter of the spinal cord in an orderly fashion. Though these pathways are tightly packed and active, the movement remains coordinated and calm, reflecting the efficiency of the nervous system's structural design. As the signal ascends, it passes through the lower regions of the brain known as the brainstem. Though compact, contains relay stations that refine the signal further. Neurons in the brainstem may enhance or diminish certain qualities of the signal, ensuring that only the most relevant aspects continue their journey upward. Here, the signal may also encounter influences from descending pathways that originate in the brain. These pathways can soften incoming signals, modulating their strength based on emotional state, attention, or context. For example, when the mind is calm, descending pathways may reduce the intensity of a pain signal, making it feel less pronounced. When the mind is anxious or fatigued, the same pathways may offer less modulation, allowing the signal to reach the brain with greater clarity. In this way, the brainstem serves as a quiet mediator, balancing incoming and outgoing influences to create a stable and adaptive flow of sensory information. Eventually, the signal reaches the thalamus, a central structure deep within the brain, often described as a relay center but functioning more like an attentive guide. The thalamus receives sensory input from nearly every part of the body and redistributes it to specialized regions of the cortex. Each type of signal is directed to the appropriate location. Touch signals go to the somatosensory cortex. Internal sensations move to deeper regions, and signals requiring emotional interpretation may be subtly directed toward the limbic system. The thalamus not only sorts signals but helps determine their significance. It evaluates the intensity, novelty, and nature of each impulse. A faint sensation may be softened or ignored entirely, while a stronger one may be highlighted and prioritized. This sorting process ensures that the conscious mind is not overwhelmed by the constant flow of sensory information. Once routed by the thalamus, the signal enters the somatosensory cortex, where perception truly begins to take form. The cortex contains a detailed map of the body, a representation so precise that individual fingers, toes, and facial regions have their own dedicated areas. When a signal arrives in the cortical area that corresponds to the hand, for example, that region becomes active. This map is flexible, continually shaped by experience, learning, and changes within the body. If a region becomes less active over time due to disuse, neighboring areas may expand. If a region becomes more active due to heightened sensory input, it may grow more defined. In this way, perception is not fixed but adaptive, shaped by the brain's remarkable ability to reorganize itself. Beyond the somatosensory cortex, higher brain regions begin to attach meaning to the sensation. The prefrontal cortex may interpret the significance of the signal, while the limbic system may shape its emotional tone. A gentle touch may be perceived as comfort or reassurance. A sudden sharp sensation may be perceived as alertness or concern. Context plays a powerful role in shaping the meaning of a sensory signal. The same pressure on the shoulder may feel soothing in a calm environment or surprising in a moment of distraction. These interpretations form the final layer of perception, the merging of physical and emotional awareness into a unified experience. Throughout this entire journey, from the receptor to the brain, the signal is not simply transmitted but shaped, filtered, and refined. Every level of the nervous system adds its own influence, ensuring that the final perception aligns not only with the physical stimulus, but also with the body's overall state. This continual modulation explains why sensations change in different moods, environments, or levels of attention. A sensation that feels intense at one moment may feel softer at another. Even though the stimulus remains the same, the nervous system adapts, always seeking balance, always adjusting its responses to support well-being. When viewed as a complete journey, the path of a sensory signal reveals a system that is both elegant and deeply interconnected. It shows how the body translates physical experience into conscious perception through a series of gentle, coordinated steps. Each receptor, each neuron, each pathway, and each brain region contributes to the final understanding of what the body is experiencing. The journey is long, intricate, and remarkably precise, yet it unfolds effortlessly within each moment of daily life. Understanding this quiet process allows the experience of sensation to be seen not as something sudden or mysterious, but as part of the body's continuous, thoughtful dialogue with itself, as natural and steady as breath, as patient and enduring as the gentle rhythms of the heart. 5. The brain's interpretation, making sense of the signal. When a sensory signal finally reaches the brain, it enters a realm of extraordinary complexity. Transmissions but become the foundations of experience. The body has already done much of the work. Receptors have translated physical events into neural impulses. Spinal pathways have carried them upward, and the thalamus has gently organized their entry. Yet it is in the brain's higher regions that sensation becomes perception, where the raw signal is shaped, interpreted, given emotional tone, and woven into the fabric of awareness. This process is not abrupt. It unfolds gradually and seamlessly, the way clouds shift across the sky without drawing attention to their motion. Even though these neural transformations occur in fractions of a second, the perception that emerges feels whole, complete, and deeply personal. To understand how the brain interprets signals, it helps to imagine the somatosensory cortex, a slender strip of tissue along the top of the brain that acts as the center for bodily awareness. This region contains a detailed map of the body, often illustrated as a figure known as the sensory homunculus. Though slightly distorted in appearance, this map reflects how much cortical space is devoted to each part of the body. Areas requiring fine sensitivity, such as the fingers, lips, and face, occupy large portions of the cortex, while larger regions of the body with coarser sensation require less space. When a sensory signal arrives, it activates the exact region corresponding to the body part involved, lighting up the map with delicate specificity. This activation does not simply indicate location. It also conveys qualities such as intensity, texture, and contrast. The brain reads these qualities with ease, converting them into a coherent sensory message. Yet this first layer of interpretation is just the beginning. Forms the initial perception. It passes the information to other regions of the brain, each adding its own nuance. Adjacent areas analyze the direction and speed of movement, if any was present in the stimulus. More distant regions explore the meaning behind the sensation, whether it relates to a known object, a familiar texture, or an expected experience. These areas work together seamlessly, exchanging signals in a way that transforms the sensory message from something raw and undefined into something deeply understood. Even simple sensations, such as the warmth of a blanket or the softness of a pillow, undergo this layered processing. The result is an experience that feels immediate and effortless, though it is produced through the careful collaboration of vast neural networks. At this stage, perception becomes a synthesis of sensation and memory. The brain calls upon past experiences to help interpret the present signal. For example, the sensation of warm water may evoke memories of comfort, relaxation, or safety, causing the experience to feel pleasant even before conscious awareness fully forms. Similarly, the feeling of pressure on a joint may be influenced by the memory of past strain or discomfort, leading the brain to interpret a mild signal as something more significant. These associations happen automatically, without any intention from the conscious mind. The brain is designed to link past and present, creating a continuous thread of understanding that keeps the body safe and informed. The limbic system plays a profound role in shaping the emotional coloring of perception. This collection of structures, nestled deep within the brain, responds to sensory signals with subtle shifts in emotion. A gentle touch may evoke calmness if the limbic system interprets the sensation as comforting, while the same touch may evoke alertness if it is unexpected. The amygdala, a small almond-shaped structure within the limbic system, evaluates the emotional significance of incoming signals, pleasant or potentially concerning. The hippocampus contributes by linking the sensation to stored memories, helping the brain recognize familiar experiences and differentiate them from unfamiliar ones. Through these interactions, the limbic system adds emotional depth to perception, simple stimuli into experiences that resonate throughout the mind. Even as the brain interprets signals, it remains highly adaptable. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reorganize itself, ensures that perception evolves over time. If a certain area of the body becomes more frequently stimulated, the brain may devote more cortical space to processing signals from that region, increasing sensitivity. If an area receives less stimulation, its cortical representation may gradually shrink, allowing neighboring areas to expand. This adaptability allows the brain to refine perception continually. Musicians, for example, often develop heightened sensitivity in the fingers due to repetitive practice, reflecting the brain's ability to reorganize itself in response to repeated sensory input. In the same way, areas of the cortex can shift following injury, allowing the brain to compensate for lost or diminished sensory signals. Throughout this interpretive process, the brain also decides which signals should reach conscious awareness and which should remain in the background. Much of the body's sensory activity never enters the conscious mind. Signals related to posture, slight shifts in temperature, or the rhythmic beating of the heart are monitored continuously but seldom noticed. This selective awareness allows the mind to focus on what is most relevant in any given moment. The prefrontal cortex plays a role here, regulating attention and determining which sensations deserve focus. For instance, the discomfort of sitting in one position may gradually intensify until the brain decides it is time to shift, allowing awareness to rise only when necessary. This quiet regulation maintains a balance between awareness and calm, ensuring that the mind is neither overwhelmed nor underinformed. Another remarkable aspect of perception is the influence of expectation. If the brain anticipates a sensation, it may interpret ambiguous signals in ways that align with the expectation. Conversely, unexpected sensations may feel amplified simply because the brain was not prepared for them. This relationship between expectation and experience demonstrates how perception is not a passive event, but an active construction, shaped by both incoming signals and the brain's predictions. These predictions arise from patterns observed in daily life, formed through countless subtle repetitions. When those patterns shift, the brain adjusts, recalibrating its expectations to better match the environment. Attention, too, shapes perception deeply. When the focus is directed toward a sensation, the corresponding brain regions become more active, making the experience feel more pronounced. When attention drifts away, those regions quiet, and the sensation fades into the background. This interplay is gentle, fluid, and continuous. It explains why discomfort may feel stronger when one is resting quietly, but less noticeable when the mind is engaged in a task or immersed in calm thoughts. The brain's ability to shift attention allows perception to be as dynamic as the world around it, responding to subtle changes in both environment and emotion. Ultimately, the brain's interpretation of sensory signals forms the essence of what it means to experience the world. Every sound, touch, warmth, or shifting breeze is transformed into perception through a series of quiet, intricate steps. These steps are shaped not only by the physical nature of the stimulus, but by memory, attention, emotion, and expectation. The result is a world that feels richly layered, with each sensation carrying its own subtle meaning. When seen through this gentle lens, perception becomes more than a simple response to stimuli. It becomes a harmonious blend of body and mind, a continuous unfolding of awareness that guides you softly through each moment of kana, life. 6. Touch, pressure, warmth, the gentle side of sensation. Among all the senses the human body carries, touch is perhaps the most quietly constant. It is always present, always monitoring, always guiding. Even when awareness rests somewhere far from the surface of the skin, touch is the way. The body stays in conversation with the world around it. Every moment of contact, whether from clothing against the skin, the weight of the body on a chair, or the softness of air drifting across the face, creates a tapestry of signals that move gently toward the nervous system. These signals rarely demand attention, yet they shape posture, movement, and comfort in ways subtle enough to go unnoticed. In this sense, touch becomes an ever-present companion, steady and supportive, forming the foundation upon which all other sensory experiences are built. At the level of the skin, an extraordinary number of receptors work in harmony to create this experience. Some respond to light pressure, others to firm pressure, still others to vibration or stretch. The variety of receptors ensures that the body can distinguish between the faintest brush of a feather and the firmness of a resting hand. These receptors are distributed across the skin in careful densities. Areas such as the fingertips, lips, and face contain high concentrations of sensitive receptors, allowing for precise perception of texture and movement. Other regions carry fewer receptors, offering broader, more diffuse sensations. This arrangement reflects the body's priorities. Fine sensitivity, where delicate tasks or close contact occur, and softer awareness in areas that move or bear weight more frequently. When a touch occurs, the receptors convert the physical event into electrical impulses that travel along sensory nerves, beginning the familiar journey toward the spinal cord. Yet the quality of touch influences which receptors activate and how the signal travels. Light touch activates rapidly adapting receptors that respond quickly but then quiet themselves if the stimulus remains constant. Firm pressure activates slowly adapting receptors that continue to send signals as long as the contact persists. Vibration stimulates specialized receptors capable of detecting fine oscillations, allowing the body to feel the gentle hum of movement. Through this varied system, touch becomes rich and layered, capable of conveying nuance in every moment of contact. Pressure, another facet of touch, plays an essential role in how the body interacts with the physical world. It helps the nervous system determine how much force is needed to grasp an object, how firmly to step onto a surface, or how closely two objects rest against one another. Pressure receptors, located deeper in the skin and within connective tissues, respond less to the faint brush of contact and more to the underlying force. They contribute to proprioception, the sense of body position, by informing the brain of how much compression is present in joints, muscles, and skin. This awareness allows the body to stand, walk, and rest with ease, adjusting posture continually without conscious thought. Even now, as you sit or lie in a comfortable position, pressure receptors are gently signaling the distribution of weight across your body, helping maintain stability and calm. Temperature adds another dimension to the sensory world, offering a continuous sense of warmth or coolness that helps the body remain in equilibrium. Thermoreceptors in the skin respond to changes in temperature rather than steady states. They are particularly sensitive to shifts when a cool breeze moves across the skin or when warm water envelops the body. These receptors are finely tuned, responding not to the absolute temperature of the environment but to how quickly and in what direction temperature changes. Through this sensitivity, the nervous system helps regulate internal temperature, prompting adjustments such as seeking shade, adding layers, or changing posture to preserve warmth. Even a slight drop in skin temperature can spark subtle responses, tiny movements of muscles, slight, adjustments in surface blood flow, all part of the body's gentle maintenance of balance. Warmth, in particular, holds a special place in sensory perception. The feeling of warmth can evoke calmness, safety, and comfort, in part because warmth signals that the environment is supportive and non-threatening. Many of the body's natural calming responses activate more easily in warm surroundings. Muscles relax, breathing deepens, and the skin's vessels widen slightly to promote circulation. Warmth also influences emotional centers in the brain, helping create a sense of softness and ease. This connection may stem from early experiences, when warmth signaled care, closeness, and nourishment. Even in adulthood, the presence of warmth can evoke that primal sense of comfort, allowing the nervous system to settle into a state of restfulness. Coolness carries its own unique qualities. It refreshes, sharpens awareness, and can create a feeling of clarity. The contrast between warm and cool sensations helps the brain construct a detailed picture of the environment. A warm mug held in cool morning air, for example, provides two distinct streams of sensory information that blend into a full experience. This blending is effortless for the brain, which interprets such contrasts without strain. Coolness can also encourage alertness, activating the body's natural inclination to adjust circulation and posture. Yet unlike extreme cold, which activates protective pain receptors, gentle coolness remains soothing, an invitation to awaken subtly without losing the comfort of calm. Together, touch, pressure, and temperature form an entire sensory language, one spoken through receptors and nerves, interpreted by the brain with extraordinary sensitivity. These sensations do not exist in isolation. Instead, they intersect constantly. Pressure may influence how warmth is felt. Light touch may combine with coolness to create the impression of movement or airflow. The brain does not separate these signals rigidly. It weaves them into a unified narrative of experience, allowing you to sense where the body ends and the environment begins. This blending is one reason touch feels so natural, so integrated into daily life, even though it depends on the continuous activity of millions of small receptors. The emotional dimension of touch adds another layer of richness. Gentle, slow strokes, or steady, reassuring pressure activate specific nerve fibers known to promote calmness and emotional well-being. These fibers, distinct from the ones that detect sharp contact or sudden changes, carry signals directly into regions of the brain associated with social bonding and trust. This is why a hand on the shoulder can feel grounding, or why a soft blanket can evoke comfort. These emotional responses are not learned. They are built into the nervous system as part of its natural design. Throughout life, touch remains one of the most powerful means of conveying connection, safety, and care. Even when there is no direct contact, the sense of touch is still at work. The body constantly monitors subtle shifts in air movement, pressure, and temperature. These sensations inform posture, balance, and spatial awareness, helping maintain stability and guiding gentle adjustments. The body uses this information to predict changes in the environment, preparing for movements before they occur. This predictive capacity gives touch a quiet, anticipatory quality, one that supports graceful interaction with the world even in moments of deep calm. As the brain receives and interprets these sensory signals, it assigns meaning based on context, memory, and emotional state. The same warm surface may feel soothing at one moment and neutral at another. The same firm pressure may feel grounding or energizing depending on the surrounding circumstances. Perception is never fixed. It shifts constantly in response to the needs of the body and the environment. This soft adaptability allows touch to serve many roles: awareness, comfort, alertness, communication, all without overwhelming the mind. In this blend of sensation and interpretation lies the gentle beauty of the sensory world. Touch, pressure, and warmth provide a steady stream of grounding information, forming a quiet backdrop against which all other experiences unfold. They guide the body through the world with softness and precision, offering connection not only to the environment, but to emotion, memory, and awareness. And in moments of stillness or rest, these sensations become even more subtle, weaving into the calm rhythm of the body's internal landscape, supporting rest, presence, and the soothing continuity of being. 7. From skin to cortex, a layered sensory story. The journey of sensation from the skin to the higher regions of the brain is not a single, direct path, but instead a layered story, one that unfolds gradually through intertwined systems working with quiet precision. Each layer contributes something unique, adding detail, refining meaning, and shaping perception before anything reaches conscious awareness. In this sense, sensation is not an instantaneous event. It is a progression that passes through thresholds of processing, much like a soft ripple expanding outward across a calm body of water. The first ripple begins at the surface of the skin, where contact with the world activates specialized receptors tuned to different qualities of touch, pressure, temperature, or potential harm. These receptors respond not with emotion or interpretation, but simply with detection, sensing shifts in the environment, and converting them into the electrical impulses that mark the first step of sensation. From this initial point, the signal moves into the sensory neuron connected to the receptor. This neuron acts as the first thread in a long and carefully woven tapestry, extending from the periphery toward the spinal cord. The electrical impulse travels along the axon in a quiet and continuous wave, a movement governed by the flow of ions across the cell membrane. In myelinated neurons, the presence of insulating layers allows the signal to leap between nodes, increasing speed and efficiency. In unmyelinated fibers, the signal moves more slowly, creating a different sensory quality. This difference in speed is one reason certain sensations feel immediate and sharp, while others arrive more gradually, forming a diffuse impression that lingers softly in the background. All of these variations ensure that the nervous system conveys not only the presence of a stimulus but also its texture, urgency, and subtlety. As the signal reaches the spinal cord, it encounters the first major point of integration. The spinal cord is often imagined as a simple conduit for information, but, in truth, it is an intricate processing center capable of shaping sensory signals even before they rise toward the brain. Within its gray matter lie networks of interneurons that evaluate incoming impulses, balancing them with inhibitory or excitatory influences. Some signals may be amplified slightly if they indicate something significant, while others may be softened if they are repetitive or unimportant. This modulation prevents the brain from becoming overwhelmed with constant information, allowing it to conserve energy and maintain focus on the most meaningful sensations. In certain cases, the spinal cord initiates motor responses immediately, bypassing the brain entirely. These reflex pathways exist to protect the body from harm, responding within fractions of a second to potential danger. A sudden prick, extreme heat, or unexpected pressure may trigger a reflexive withdrawal before 40 minutes awareness forms. Yet even when reflexes occur, the signal still ascends toward the brain, ensuring that perception and memory remain intact. This layered response system demonstrates the balance between speed and understanding, between automatic reactions and thoughtful interpretation. Once the signal enters the ascending tracts of the spinal cord, it joins streams of other sensory information traveling upward. These tracts are specialized pathways, each carrying particular types of sensory data. The dorsal column, medial lemniscus pathway, carries fine touch, vibration, and Proprioceptive signals, the ones that allow you to sense texture, movement, and body position with remarkable precision. The spinothalamic tract carries information about temperature, pain, and crude touch. Though these pathways run parallel, they maintain their own integrity, ensuring that each type of sensation remains distinct until it reaches the structures responsible for further interpretation. As the signal advances, it arrives at the brainstem, where another layer of processing occurs. The brainstem acts as a deep crossroads for sensory and motor systems, filtering signals, shaping their intensity, and preparing them for higher interpretation. Some impulses are further modulated here based on the brain's descending influences, signals from higher regions that can either soften or enhance sensory input, depending on emotional state, attention, or physical needs. When the mind is calm and settled, descending pathways may reduce the signal's intensity, adding a layer of comfort and ease to the sensory experience. When the mind is stressed or fatigued, these pathways may be less active, allowing signals to reach the brain with greater clarity and impact. From the brainstem, the signal moves toward the thalamus, a central structure often described as the brain's gateway for sensation. The thalamus receives sensory input from nearly every part of the body and redistributes it with remarkable precision. It directs touch and pressure signals to the somatosensory cortex, temperature signals to areas involved in bodily regulation, and emotionally significant signals toward the limbic system. The thalamus evaluates the strength, novelty, and context of each impulse, deciding whether it should enter conscious awareness or remain part of the background hum of sensation that supports posture and balance without drawing attention. This filtering process is one of the reasons most sensations never reach conscious thought. Constant awareness of every sensation would overwhelm the mind, leaving little room for contemplation, rest, or emotional experience. Once routed by the thalamus, the signal reaches the somatosensory cortex, where the perception of sensation takes its most defined form. This region contains a detailed map of the body, allowing the brain to identify exactly where the signal originated. Each small area of the cortex corresponds to a specific region of the skin or deeper tissues, creating a representation so precise that even slight differences in touch or movement are detected. The activation of these cortical regions forms the conscious perception of sensation, not just where it is felt, but also what it feels like. Softness, firmness, warmth, pressure, and vibration all acquire their distinct qualities here. But sensation does not end at the somatosensory cortex. The brain immediately begins to integrate this new information with memory, emotion, and expectation. Regions responsible for evaluating emotional significance add subtle tones of comfort, alertness, or neutrality. Areas involved in memory compare the new sensation with past experiences, shaping whether it feels familiar or unfamiliar. Attention networks determine whether the sensation deserves ongoing focus or should gently fade into the background. All of these layers combine to transform physical input into a complete, lived experience. This layered story of sensation from skin to spinal cord, from brainstem to cortex, reveals just how much occurs beneath the surface of awareness. Even the simplest touch triggers a cascade of activity, involving countless neurons and multiple levels of processing. And yet, the experience itself feels immediate and seamless, a unified perception formed through coordinated effort. This is the quiet elegance of the sensory system. It works continually, gently, and reliably, shaping the way you move through the world, while allowing the mind to drift, focus, rest, or dream without becoming overwhelmed. In these layers, one can sense not only complexity but also harmony. Each part of the system plays its role with quiet consistency, supporting the body's need for awareness and balance. Sensation becomes more than a physiological process. It becomes a soft imprint on the canvas of perception, a delicate translation of the world into the language of the mind. 8. Why pain feels different for everyone. Pain, although rooted in the biology of nerves and tissues, is also something deeply personal. Two people can encounter the same stimulus, the same level of pressure, heat, or strain, and yet describe the experience in completely different ways. One person may feel only a faint discomfort while the other feels something sharp or intense. Within a single individual, the perception of pain can shift from day to day, moment to moment, changing based on mood, environment, or the body's internal state. This gentle variability is not a flaw in the system. Instead, it reflects the beautiful complexity of the human nervous system, a system that interprets pain not only through physical pathways but also through emotional, cognitive, and contextual layers that shape each experience uniquely. To understand why pain feels different for everyone, it helps to begin with the recognition that each nervous system is slightly different. Even though the basic structure of sensory neurons, receptors, and pathways is shared across all humans, the density and sensitivity of receptors vary subtly from person to person. Some individuals have a higher concentration of nociceptors in certain regions of their skin or tissues, allowing them to detect changes more sharply. These differences arise naturally, shaped by genetics, development, early life experiences, and even the environment in which one grows. No two nervous systems are identical, and as a result, the experience of pain cannot be identical either. Beyond these physical differences lies the influence of past experiences. The brain relies heavily on memory when interpreting incoming signals, drawing connections between current sensations and those stored from earlier moments in life. If someone has experienced pain frequently in a certain area or context, the brain may respond more strongly to new stimuli that resemble those past sensations. It may heighten awareness. In contrast, someone whose experiences with discomfort have been minimal or brief may interpret similar signals with less urgency. This interplay between memory and perception forms one of the foundations of individual variation in pain. It is not simply that the nerves send signals, but that the brain recalls and compares, shaping the meaning of the sensation based on what has come before. Emotion also plays a profound role in shaping pain. The brain's emotional centers, particularly those in the limbic system, are closely linked to sensory pathways. When a person feels calm, supported, or safe, the emotional centers tend to soften the interpretation of discomfort. They release neurotransmitters that help dampen incoming pain signals, creating a sense of resilience or ease even when the body encounters strain. But when the emotional state is one of anxiety, sadness, or stress, these same regions may heighten the perception of pain. They can increase sensitivity, making mild sensations feel more pronounced. This emotional influence explains why the same physical stimulus may feel different depending on one's surroundings, thoughts, or internal state. Pain becomes more than a physical message. It becomes a reflection of the entire psychological landscape at that moment. Attention is another subtle yet powerful factor. When the mind focuses intently on a sensation, the brain increases the activity of regions associated with that experience, making the sensation feel stronger and more defined. When attention shifts away toward soothing sounds, gentle breathing, or peaceful imagery, the same sensation may fade into the background. This gentle modulation shows how perception is not fixed but responsive, shaped by where the mind chooses to rest. People who naturally focus on sensations may notice pain more intensely, while those who shift attention easily may experience a softer perception. Neither pattern is right or wrong. Each simply reflects the brain's unique way of organizing awareness. Context shapes pain in ways that may be even less obvious but just as important. The environment, the presence or absence of supportive people, the time of day, and even the meaning assigned to the sensation all influence perception. A sensation interpreted as a sign of healing may feel less distressing than the same sensation interpreted as a sign of harm. Warm lighting, quiet surroundings, and gentle rhythms can soften the experience, while noise, pressure, or uncertainty may heighten it. The nervous system is not isolated from the world. It continuously interprets sensory signals in relation to the environment, adjusting the perception of pain according to the context. This contextual influence helps explain why people often feel pain more acutely when stressed or tired, and more gently when calm or cared for. Genetics adds another layer of variation. Certain individuals naturally produce more endogenous opioids, the brain's own soothing chemicals, while others produce them in lower quantities. Some people have more efficient pain-dampening pathways, while others have pathways that amplify signals. These genetic differences influence how the brain filters and modulates sensory information before it reaches awareness. They also help explain why certain conditions involving chronic pain affect some individuals but not others. Genes may shape the starting point, but experience, emotion, and environment refine the outcome continually. Cultural background also shapes pain in quiet but powerful ways. From childhood onward, people learn how to interpret, describe, and respond to discomfort through the cues offered by family and society. Some cultures emphasize stoicism, encouraging individuals to downplay pain or interpret it as a normal part of life. Others encourage verbal expression or communal support, shaping a different perception of what pain means. These cultural expectations do not change the nerves themselves, but they influence how the brain interprets their signals. Beliefs about pain, whether taught intentionally or absorbed naturally, become part of the lens through which sensations are understood. Even within a single person, the perception of pain changes over time. A sensation that felt intense early in life may feel more manageable in adulthood. A chronic discomfort may seem sharper on some days than others. Illness, sleep quality, diet, hormonal changes, and physical activity all influence the nervous system's sensitivity. The immune system interacts closely with sensory pathways, sometimes increasing the sensitivity of receptors and sometimes calming them. The endocrine system contributes fluctuations in stress hormones, which can heighten or reduce pain perception depending on their balance. These internal rhythms create a sensory landscape that shifts gently throughout life. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to change and adapt, also plays a role. When pain signals travel repeatedly along the same pathways, the brain may begin to strengthen those pathways, making them more responsive. This can lead to heightened sensitivity even when the original cause of pain has resolved. On the other hand, calming experiences, supportive environments, and therapeutic practices can help the brain soften these pathways, reducing sensitivity and reshaping perception. The brain is never fixed. It is always learning, always recalibrating, always adapting to new experiences. All of these layers, physical differences, emotional states, memories, genetic influences, cultural expectations, and life experiences come together to form each person's unique perception of pain. This is why pain cannot be measured purely by intensity or described simply by physical cause. It is a multidimensional experience shaped by the entire nervous system and the mind that interprets it. When seen through this gentle lens, pain becomes less of a rigid sensation and more of a dynamic, evolving conversation between the body and the mind. Recognizing the individuality of pain fosters a deeper sense of compassion, both for oneself and for others. It reminds us that each person carries their own sensory world, shaped by forces seen and unseen. And within that world, pain serves as a message, interpreted through the unique landscape of a life lived, felt in a way that cannot be replicated by anyone else. 9. The emotional color of sensation. When a sensation reaches the brain, It does not arrive as a simple signal waiting to be understood in isolation. Instead, it enters a vast and interconnected landscape where emotion, memory, and perception blend so seamlessly that it becomes impossible to separate one from another. Pain, in particular, is shaped not only by what the nerves detect, but also by the emotional tone carried within the mind at the moment the sensation appears. This emotional coloring is subtle, continuous, and deeply influential, forming one of the most important reasons why sensation feels so personal, so variable, and so tied to the inner world of thought and feeling. At the heart of this emotional influence lies the limbic system, a set of structures that act as the brain's emotional center. These structures, including the amygdala, hippocampus, and parts of the cingulate cortex, evaluate every incoming sensory signal, asking not only what is this, but also how should this feel. The amygdala in particular is sensitive to signals that might carry emotional significance. It compares new sensations with past emotional memories, searching for patterns that might indicate safety, comfort, or potential concern. A sensation that resembles something soothing, such as the warmth of a familiar environment, may be colored with calmness. A sensation that resembles something unsettling may be colored with alertness. This emotional tint forms instantly, often before the conscious mind has had a chance to make sense of the sensation. In this way, emotion and perception arise together, shaping the experience from its very beginning. Memory, too, plays a quiet yet powerful role in giving sensation its emotional color. The hippocampus, which helps store and retrieve memories, works closely with emotional centers whenever new sensory signals appear. When the body encounters a sensation that echoes an earlier one, memories rise gently into the background, guiding the brain's interpretation. This does not require conscious thought. Memories emerge automatically, influencing how the signal is framed. A gentle pressure on the hand may evoke memories of comfort or reassurance, if such sensations have been linked with warmth or support in the past. A similar pressure might evoke caution or discomfort if previous experiences associated that sensation with tension or uncertainty. These associations form gradually through life, shaped by countless interactions, relationships, and contexts that leave subtle impressions on the nervous system. Because emotion and memory are so closely tied to sensation, the experience of pain becomes more than a physical event. It becomes something deeply layered, with each layer shaped by the mind's internal rhythms. Pain experienced during moments of fear or stress may feel sharper, not simply because the nerves send stronger signals, but because emotional centers amplify the awareness of those signals. Pain experienced during calm, soothing moments may feel softer, even if the physical cause remains unchanged. This modulation reflects the brain's natural ability to adjust perception in response to emotional needs. When the mind is overwhelmed, pain may feel more pronounced. When the mind is peaceful, pain may feel more distant, as though softened by a gentle emotional cushion. This emotional coloring is not limited to pain. Every form of touch carries its own emotional tone. A slow, gentle stroke across the skin activates a specific set of sensory fibers known to connect directly with emotional centers. These fibers create sensations, often described as comforting, reassuring, or nurturing. The brain responds to these signals with the release of calming chemicals, deepening the sense of ease. Even pressure can carry emotional meaning. A firm, steady touch may feel grounding, as though anchoring the body in the present moment. Temperature, too, plays a role. Warmth tends to evoke comfort, safety, and relaxation, while gentle coolness may evoke clarity, freshness, or alertness. These emotional associations arise from early life experiences when warmth and touch were among the first forms of communication the body received. The emotional context surrounding a sensation also shapes how it feels. A quiet environment, soft lighting, familiar sounds, or the presence of supportive individuals can create an emotional landscape that softens incoming sensory information. In contrast, tension, uncertainty, or distraction can heighten awareness of even mild sensations. This is why a slight ache may go unnoticed when one is relaxed, yet feel more pronounced in moments of stress. The brain continually evaluates not only the sensory signal but the total environment, integrating external and Asian internal cues before shaping the final perception. Attention plays a gentle but meaningful role in emotional coloring as well. When the mind focuses on a sensation with concern or expectation, emotional centers become more involved, amplifying the perception. When attention shifts, emotional engagement may decrease, allowing the sensation to blend more quietly into the background. Even a small shift in focus toward breath, sound, or a calming image can reduce the emotional intensity of a sensation. This does not diminish the physical signal. Rather, it shapes how the brain chooses to interpret it at that moment. Over time, emotional coloring becomes part of the body's sensory memory. The nervous system learns patterns, recognizing which sensations often accompany comfort and which feel connected to strain. These learned associations help the brain anticipate what a sensation might mean, adjusting perception accordingly. Sometimes these patterns support well-being, creating a sense of ease when familiar, comforting sensations arise. At other times, especially when pain or discomfort has been persistent, these patterns may heighten sensitivity. The brain becomes more attentive, more ready to respond, as if standing guard. This heightened attentiveness is not intentional. It is the nervous system's way of protecting the body, even though the result may make sensations feel more intense. The emotional color of sensation also changes across the lifespan. In childhood, the brain is still developing its sensory emotional connections, forming early impressions that shape later experiences. In adulthood, life events, relationships, and changing responsibilities influence emotional states, shifting the way sensation is interpreted. In older age, the nervous system adapts again, sometimes becoming more sensitive, sometimes more muted, depending on physical health, mental well-being, and the body's natural rhythms. Through all these stages, the emotional dimension of sensation remains a constant companion, gently shaping the way the world is felt. When seen from this perspective, it becomes clear that sensation cannot be separated from emotion. Every touch, every shift in temperature, every hint of discomfort carries its own emotional undertone. These tones may be subtle, barely felt, but they influence the body's response in profound ways. They guide behavior, shape memory, and color perception, creating a sensory experience that is as rich as it is complex. This blending of emotion and sensation reveals something deeply human, that the body does not simply detect the world, it feels the world. It interprets every moment through a lens shaped by personal history, internal rhythms, and the quiet presence of memory. And in this gentle interplay, sensation becomes more than a biological response. It becomes the emotional language through which the body and mind communicate continuously and softly throughout the course of a lifetime. 10. Chronic pain. When the signal continues. Chronic pain is often described as pain that lasts longer than expected, but this gentle definition barely captures the complexity of what it truly means for a signal to continue beyond its original purpose. Acute pain, the kind that arises suddenly after an injury or strain, is usually a protective message. It alerts the body that something needs attention, encourages rest or care, and often fades as healing takes place. Chronic pain, however, exists in a different realm. It is not simply a longer version of acute pain, nor is it a stubborn signal refusing to switch off. Instead, it is a state in which the nervous system remains attentive, active, and reactive even after the initial cause has diminished. It becomes a rhythmic echo, repeating through the pathways of the body and the brain, shaped by layers of biology, memory, stress. To understand chronic pain, it helps first to imagine the nervous system as a highly sensitive communication network. Its job is to detect meaningful changes, respond to threats, and guide the body toward balance. When tissue is injured, nociceptors, specialized sensory receptors, send signals through nerve fibers to the spinal cord and onward to the brain. These signals rise like sparks, bright enough to call for attention. As healing occurs, the tissue gradually restores itself, and the nociceptors reduce their activity. In an ideal scenario, the pain signal softens and eventually fades. But in chronic pain, something different happens. The nervous system begins to behave as though the original threat remains present, even when tissue has already healed or when the initial cause is no longer active. The pathways involved in sending and interpreting pain signals remain open, active, and sensitized. This sensitization can occur at multiple levels. At the peripheral level, in the tissues and nerves, nociceptors can become more sensitive, responding to milder stimuli than before. They may fire in response to light pressure, changes in temperature, or even normal body movement. At the spinal level, the neurons that relay sensory signals can become more excitable, amplifying the signals they receive and sending stronger impulses upward. Meanwhile, in the brain, areas responsible for interpreting pain may become more responsive, reading even faint signals as meaningful. This constellation of changes turns the entire pain system into a heightened state of readiness, as though it has learned to expect the continuation of discomfort. Chronic pain also reflects the influence of neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reorganize itself based on repeated experiences. When pain signals travel repeatedly along the same pathways for days, weeks, or months, the brain strengthens those pathways. This strengthening is not intentional. It is simply the brain's natural response to repeated activity. Just as practicing a skill many times enhances the brain's efficiency in performing it, repeated pain signals make the nervous system more skilled at perceiving pain. The pathways become smoother, faster, and more easily activated. Over time, the brain may begin to interpret signals that were once neutral, such as light touch, gentle movement, or mild pressure, as painful. This shift is not a sign of weakness or exaggeration. It is a reflection of the nervous system's remarkable adaptability. Emotion and stress also shape chronic pain in subtle but powerful ways. The limbic system, which governs emotional responses, becomes closely involved in pain perception when discomfort persists. Stress hormones such as cortisol influence how sensitive the nervous system feels. When the body experiences prolonged stress, the descending pathways that normally soften pain may become less active, while pathways that amplify pain become more pronounced. This shift can make chronic pain feel sharper or more persistent even when no additional tissue damage has occurred. At the same time, emotional responses to pain, frustration, worry, sadness, or fear may reinforce the neural pathways that sustain it. These emotional layers do not cause chronic pain, but they intertwine with it, creating a loop in which pain and emotion influence one another gently yet continuously. Another aspect of chronic pain lies in the body's internal systems. The immune system can play a role, as prolonged activation may lead to sustained inflammation, even at low levels. This inflammation may sensitize nerves, making them more reactive. Hormonal rhythms can also shape pain perception, causing fluctuations in sensitivity across days or weeks. The interplay between the nervous, immune, and endocrine systems is intricate, and in chronic pain, these systems often remain in a cycle of heightened communication. The uniqueness of chronic pain becomes even more apparent when recognizing that it does not always reflect ongoing injury. In many cases, the original tissue damage has already healed, yet the nervous system continues to behave as though the threat remains. This can create confusion or frustration, but understanding the nature of chronic pain can bring a sense of clarity. Pain is real even when the cause is not visible, because pain is not only a physical event, it is the brain's interpretation of sensory input. When the nervous system becomes sensitized, that interpretation continues, even in the absence of new damage. When chronic pain becomes part of daily life, it shapes thoughts, behaviors, and moods in quiet and persistent ways. People may adjust their movements, avoid activities, or brace their bodies in anticipation of discomfort. These protective behaviors are natural and intuitive, yet they can also reinforce the body's perception that a threat exists. Muscles may tense more often, breathing may become shallower, or posture may shift into guarded positions. Over time, these adaptations can increase the experience of pain, creating a loop in which the body's responses to pain subtly contribute to its continuation. This cycle is not a sign of fault. It is a reflection of the nervous system's deep commitment to protection. Yet even within the landscape of chronic pain, the nervous system retains its capacity for change. The brain can learn new patterns of interpretation, gradually softening its responses to signals that once felt sharp. This process often happens slowly, through repeated experiences of calmness, gentle movement, supportive environments, and moments of ease. These positive inputs help the nervous system remember states of comfort, building new pathways that counterbalance sensitized ones. Over time, the perception of pain may shift, becoming less persistent or less intense, even when the physical sensations remain. Chronic pain also highlights the profound influence of context. The presence of soothing sounds, familiar surroundings, supportive relationships, and calming routines can ease the body's heightened sensitivity. These environmental factors send signals of safety to the nervous system, reminding it that it no longer needs to remain in a state of high alert. Through these subtle cues, the nervous system begins to recalibrate toward a more balanced state. This process is often gentle, unfolding quietly rather than dramatically, but it reflects the tremendous resilience and adaptability of the human body. Perhaps what stands out most about chronic pain is how deeply it embodies the interplay between body and mind. Not a simple condition with a single cause or a single solution. It is a complex, evolving conversation within the nervous system, shaped by biology, memory, stress, and perception. And yet, within this complexity lies a remarkable truth. Perception is not fixed. The brain is capable of change. The nervous system is capable of softening. The emotional landscape is capable of easing. Chronic pain does not define the body's future. It simply reflects the state of the system in the present moment, a state that continues to shift, adapt, and respond to the gentle rhythms of life. In this understanding, chronic pain becomes less of a rigid, unyielding experience and more of a dynamic process, one that can be influenced by rest, calm, movement, and care. It is a reminder that even in the presence of persistent signals, the body remains open to change, guided always by the quiet wisdom of its own interconnected systems. 11 Gate control theory. The body's dimming switch. In the wide landscape of pain science, few ideas have offered as much clarity and gentle reassurance as the gate control theory. It provides a way of understanding pain not as a fixed and unavoidable sensation, but as something that can be softened, shaped, and influenced by the body's own internal systems. This theory suggests that pain is not simply the result of a signal traveling from the site of an injury to the brain. Instead, It proposes that there are mechanisms within the spinal cord that act like gates, tiny dimming switches that can open to allow pain signals through or close to reduce their intensity. This concept transforms the understanding of pain from something rigid and uncontrollable into something dynamic and responsive, shaped by the body's constant need to maintain balance and protect itself. To imagine the gate control theory, picture the spinal cord not as a simple passageway, but as a place filled with small processing centers. These centers receive incoming sensory signals before deciding how much of each signal should be passed upward to the brain. When the gates are relatively open, pain signals travel more freely, and discomfort may feel sharper or more noticeable. When the gates are partially closed, only a small portion of the signals pass through, creating a softer or more distant sensation. When the gates are more fully closed, pain may be dampened so thoroughly that it barely reaches awareness at all. These gates are not physical doors, but networks of neurons that enhance or inhibit the flow of information, adjusting continuously in response to the body's needs. One of the most gentle and intuitive aspects of gate control theory is that it explains why certain forms of touch can reduce pain. When a person rubs an area that has just been bumped, or when a warm compress is placed on a sore muscle, the sensation of touch or warmth activates a different set of sensory pathways, ones that carry signals faster and more efficiently than pain pathways. These faster signals can enter the spinal cord and effectively crowd out or inhibit the slower, more persistent pain signals. In this way, non-painful sensations can help close the gate partially, easing discomfort. This familiar experience demonstrates the nervous system's natural ability to protect the body by shifting attention and resources away from pain when appropriate. The gates in the spinal cord are influenced not only by physical touch but also by the brain's descending pathways. These pathways travel from higher brain centers down toward the spinal cord, carrying signals that can either soften or heighten the perception of pain. When the mind is calm, supportive neurotransmitters are released that help close the gates and dampen pain signals. When someone is frightened, stressed, or overwhelmed, that open the gates wider, allowing more pain information to flow upward. This adaptability reflects the nervous system's constant monitoring of both internal and external environments. If the brain perceives a situation as threatening, it may increase sensitivity to ensure the body remains alert. If the environment feels safe, these descending pathways may help the spinal cord reduce sensitivity, promoting comfort and ease. Emotions play a quiet but profound role in this process. Gates tend to remain more closed. The nervous system interprets these emotional states as signs that the body is not in immediate danger, allowing pain signals to soften. Conversely, stress hormones can open the gates wider, making sensations feel sharper. This does not mean pain is imagined or exaggerated. It simply means that the nervous system, guided by the emotional state, adjusts its sensitivity to protect the body. The gates respond to the overall context, integrating physical sensations with emotional cues to shape perception. Attention also influences the gates. When the mind focuses directly on pain, neural circuits involved in processing that sensation strengthen temporarily, increasing the flow of signals. This heightened awareness opens the gates slightly. When attention shifts toward calming imagery, soothing sounds, or gentle breathing, the circuits involved in pain processing become less active, and the gates may close more. This shifting of attention can happen naturally, without effort, or through practices that encourage relaxation. The nervous system responds in kind, adjusting the balance between pain and non-pain signals with quiet precision. Another aspect of gate control theory lies in the role of past experiences. The nervous system remembers patterns, including patterns of pain. If the body has encountered discomfort repeatedly, the spinal gates may become more sensitive, opening more easily in anticipation. The system becomes primed for protection, even when the threat is no longer present. While this increased sensitivity can be challenging, It also reflects the nervous system's adaptability. Just as gates can become more open through repetition, they can also become less reactive through experiences of safety, calmness, and consistent, soothing input. Over time, the gates learn to settle again, responding less intensely to signals that once felt overwhelming. Understanding the gates helps explain how different types of therapies or calming techniques influence pain. Gentle movement, stretching, massage, warmth, rhythmic breathing, and soothing contact all activate sensory pathways that compete with or modulate pain signals. Similarly, supportive environments, quiet rooms, soft light, comforting voices send signals of safety to the brain, encouraging descending pathways to help close the gates. This layering of influences means that the nervous system is always open to change. Even in moments when pain feels persistent or strong, the body retains the capacity to shift its state, guided by internal and external cues that promote ease. The gate control theory also highlights the importance of balance. Pain signals are not inherently harmful. They carry important information. The gates do not close completely in most circumstances, because the body still needs to remain aware of what is happening within it. The goal of the system is not to eliminate pain, but to regulate it, allowing the body to respond appropriately without being overwhelmed. When the gates function harmoniously, the nervous system maintains a flow of information that supports both safety and comfort. What makes this theory especially reassuring is the understanding that perception is not fixed. The gates can shift, adjust, soften, or tighten based on the moment. They respond to touch, movement, expectation, emotion, memory, and even small environmental cues. This dynamic quality means that pain is not a static signal, but part of an ongoing conversation within the nervous system. It changes as the body and mind change. It adapts to new experiences, new patterns of thought, and new environments. And within that adaptability lies a deep sense of hope, because the gates can learn, and through gentle influence, they can also relearn. In seeing pain through the lens of gate control theory, one begins to appreciate the nervous system not as an unyielding structure, but as a fluid, responsive network. The spinal gates act not like rigid barriers, but like flexible dimming switches, adjusting the intensity of sensation moment by moment. They are influenced by touch, by calmness, by breath, by memory, and by the softest shifts in emotion. And through this continuous modulation, the body maintains both awareness and protection, offering a gentle reminder that even within discomfort, there exists a system designed to support, adapt, and restore balance whenever it can. 12. The role of chemicals, neurotransmitters, and relief. Deep within the nervous system, beneath the layers of electrical impulses and branching pathways, lies a quieter language, one spoken not through signals that race along neurons, but through chemicals that float gently across microscopic spaces. These chemicals, known as neurotransmitters, form the softer, slower side of communication within the body. They are released in carefully measured amounts, altering the sensitivity of neurons, shaping the intensity of signals, and influencing how the brain interprets sensation. In the context of pain and perception, neurotransmitters act like subtle artists. Their roles are intricate, yet their actions are so integrated into the fabric of consciousness that their influence often feels like part of the mind's natural rhythm rather than a separate mechanistic process. One of the most well-known families of neurotransmitters involved in pain relief is the group often referred to as the body's natural opioids. These include endorphins, enkephalins, and dynorphins, small molecules, released by neurons throughout the brain and spinal cord. Their presence can soften the perception of pain by binding to specific receptors on nerve cells, reducing the strength of incoming signals. This process does not block signals entirely. Instead, it gently moderates their intensity, creating a sense of relief or comfort. These natural opioids are released during various forms of soothing activity: slow, rhythmic breathing, gentle touch, warm environments, and moments of emotional connection. They also arise during physical activity, helping the body continue moving even when muscles begin to feel fatigued. Their role is both protective and supportive, allowing the nervous system to maintain balance between awareness and ease. Endorphins, in particular, hold a special place in this landscape, often described as the body's natural feel-good chemicals. They interact with the nervous system in ways that promote well-being. Their release can create a gentle sense of warmth or internal comfort, as though the body has become slightly lighter. This sensation may accompany soft stretching, peaceful movement, or sustained calmness. When endorphins circulate through the nervous system, they help close some of the spinal gates that intensify pain signals, lending themselves naturally to the modulation described by gate control theory. Their gentle dampening effect supports the body's effort to maintain equilibrium, especially during times when stress or discomfort threatens to become overwhelming. Serotonin, another key neurotransmitter, also plays a vital role in shaping how pain is perceived. Known widely for its influence on mood, serotonin interacts closely with the pathways that regulate both emotional states and sensory input. Higher levels of serotonin can soften the experience of pain, while lower levels may increase sensitivity. This relationship arises from serotonin's ability to influence descending pathways that travel from the brain to the spinal cord. These pathways help modulate how open or closed the spinal gates remain. When serotonin levels are balanced, these descending pathways can close the gates more effectively, reducing the intensity of pain signals. When serotonin levels drop, the gates may become slightly more permissive. This delicate balance highlights the deep interconnectedness between mood and perception. Dopamine also plays a subtle role in pain modulation, though it is more commonly associated with motivation, pleasure, and reward. Dopamine's influence emerges through its ability to alter the emotional meaning of pain. While dopamine does not directly reduce sensory signals, it affects the way the brain interprets discomfort within the broader context of motivation and well-being. When dopamine pathways are active, the brain may evaluate discomfort as less distressing, often because attention shifts toward feelings of purpose, anticipation, or satisfaction. This effect explains why moments of flow or engagement can soften the perception of pain, even when the physical cause remains unchanged. The presence of dopamine does not erase discomfort. It simply surrounds the experience with a different emotional tone. GABA, or gamma-aminobutyric acid, serves as the nervous system's primary inhibitory neurotransmitter. Its role is to calm neural activity, helping neurons fire less frequently or less intensely. When GABA levels are sufficient, the nervous system becomes more settled, allowing sensory processing to occur. With less noise or reactivity, this calming effect can reduce the amplification of pain signals within the spinal cord and brain, lowering the overall intensity of discomfort. GABA is heavily involved in the regulation of sleep, relaxation, and emotional steadiness, making it an essential part of the body's mechanisms for soothing itself. Its presence acts as a gentle brake, preventing the nervous system from becoming overstimulated. Glutamate, by contrast, is the primary excitatory neurotransmitter. It plays a key role in the transmission of sensory signals, including pain, from one neuron to another. While necessary for communication, glutamate can become overly active in certain conditions, contributing to heightened sensitivity or chronic discomfort. The balance between glutamate and inhibitory neurotransmitters like GABA helps maintain the nervous system's equilibrium. When these two forces remain in harmony, the perception of sensation feels stable and manageable. When glutamate becomes too prominent, sensation may become sharper or more intense. This balance shifts throughout the day, influenced by sleep, stress, diet, movement, and emotional states. Norepinephrine, often associated with alertness and the body's stress response, also influences the perception of pain. When released in moderate amounts, it can activate descending pathways that reduce pain signals. This effect can be protective, helping the body maintain function even when facing physically demanding circumstances. However, when norepinephrine rises too high, as it may during stress or anxiety, it can increase sensitivity by heightening the nervous system's vigilance. This dual role shows how neurotransmitters often act with nuance rather than strict rules. Shape perception, not in isolation, but in constant dialogue with the body's internal environment. The influence of these neurotransmitters is not limited to pain. They shape mood, energy, memory, and emotional expression. Because the systems responsible for pain and emotion share many of the same chemicals, the two are deeply intertwined. A shift in mood can alter the perception of discomfort, and a shift in physical sensation can influence emotion. This gentle reciprocity keeps the nervous system responsive to the needs of the moment, allowing it to adapt fluidly to internal and external cues. The release of neurotransmitters is affected by many factors: sleep quality, diet, hydration, movement, stress levels, and social connection. Even the smallest experiences can influence their balance. A warm drink, a soothing sound, a comforting presence, or a moment of deep breathing can encourage the release of calming neurotransmitters. In contrast, prolonged tension or emotional strain may reduce their presence or increase excitatory chemicals that heighten sensitivity. This constant ebb and flow creates a chemical landscape that shifts throughout the day, shaping the body's perception of the world in subtle but meaningful ways. Understanding the role of neurotransmitters brings a kind of gentle reassurance. It reveals that the nervous system is not a rigid structure but a fluid, adaptive network capable of supporting comfort and balance through its own natural chemistry. Even when discomfort arises, the body possesses built-in mechanisms designed to soothe, calm, and moderate the experience. These mechanisms may not erase pain entirely, but they shape it, soften it, and remind the nervous system that ease is possible. Within this chemical dance, the body expresses its quiet wisdom. It continuously adjusts its internal environment, releasing molecules that guide the nervous system toward restoration. Each neurotransmitter plays its own part in this process, contributing to the soft modulation of sensation. And through their combined influence, the body finds ways to remain grounded, balanced, and gently connected to itself, even in moments of pain or uncertainty. 13. Pain and perception across the lifespan. As the human body moves gently through the stages of life, the experience of pain and sensation evolves along with it. From the earliest moments after birth through childhood, adolescence, adulthood, and into older age, the nervous system changes in ways both subtle and profound. These changes shape the sensitivity of receptors, the efficiency of neural pathways, the influence of emotional states, and the body's ability to modulate discomfort. In this quiet unfolding, pain becomes not a single fixed experience, but a shifting companion, reflecting the growth, challenges, and adaptations of each stage of life. Understanding this lifelong evolution offers a soft, grounded appreciation of how deeply the nervous system adapts to the body's needs over time. In infancy, the sensory world is new and vivid. The nervous system, though remarkably active, is still developing its pathways and learning how to interpret signals. Many sensory receptors are present from birth, but their connections to the brain are not yet fully refined. This means that infants may experience sensations more intensely or more broadly than adults. A gentle touch may feel enveloping, A temperature change may feel dramatic, and discomfort may create a global sense of distress rather than a localized ache. Because the brain's filtering systems are still maturing, even mild sensations can feel overwhelming. Yet, this sensitivity is also protective. It encourages infants to respond quickly to changes in their internal or external environment, helping caregivers attend to their needs. During this time, soothing touch, soft warmth, rhythmic motion, and gentle sounds play essential roles in shaping the infant's early understanding of safety. These experiences guide the nervous system as it learns to distinguish between discomfort and comfort, forming the earliest emotional associations that will influence perception throughout life. As children grow, their sensory systems continue to refine. Neural pathways become more efficient, myelination increases, and the brain becomes better at distinguishing different types of signals. Children also begin to interpret pain through the lens of experience and social learning. Their understanding of discomfort is influenced not only by the physical sensation, but by the reactions of caregivers, the context of the situation, and their own developing emotional awareness. A scraped knee may feel frightening to a young child not simply because of the physical injury, but because they are still learning how to interpret unexpected sensations. Over time, repeated experiences of being soothed after discomfort help children build confidence in their ability to cope. The nervous system gradually learns to regulate itself more effectively, closing spinal gates more easily and moderating emotional responses with greater balance. Adolescence introduces another layer of change. Hormonal shifts influence neurotransmitter levels, altering mood, sensitivity, and the body's internal rhythms. During this stage, the emotional centers of the brain often develop more rapidly than the regions involved in regulation and long-term perspective. As a result, sensations, including pain, may feel more intense or emotionally charged. This heightened sensitivity is not a sign of fragility. It is part of the natural process of brain maturation. Adolescents learn to navigate the complexity of their sensory experiences while developing social awareness and personal identity. Stress, sleep patterns, and daily habits can shape their perception of pain more strongly during this period than at any other time. Yet as the brain matures, gradually strengthens its ability to regulate emotional responses, establishing a more stable balance between sensation and interpretation. In adulthood, the nervous system reaches a stage of relative equilibrium. Pain perception tends to become more consistent, shaped by a blend of physiological stability and accumulated experience. Adults often interpret discomfort not only through sensation, but through understanding, context, and emotional resilience. By this time, the pathways involved in pain modulation, those that release endorphins, engage inhibitory neurons, and activate descending control systems are well established. This makes it easier for many adults to manage or reinterpret discomfort, especially when supported by stress regulation, rest, movement, and emotional well-being. Yet adult life also brings responsibilities, pressures, and habits that can influence pain perception. Stress may open spinal gates, insufficient rest may heighten sensitivity, and prolonged strain may contribute to persistent discomfort. Even so, the adult nervous system retains remarkable adaptability, capable of recalibrating with changes in lifestyle, environment, patterns. As the body ages, the sensory experience shifts once more. Some neural pathways may slow slightly, reflexes may become less immediate, and certain sensory receptors may become less sensitive. These changes can create a softer perception of some sensations, while increasing sensitivity to others. Joint stiffness, reduced circulation, or changes in connective tissues may create new forms of discomfort that were unfamiliar earlier in life. The spinal gates may open more easily, not because the nervous system becomes weaker, but because inflammation, reduced mobility, or age-related changes influence how signals travel. Yet it is equally true that many older adults develop a greater emotional resilience to discomfort, shaped by decades of experience and perspective. The emotional coloring of sensation may shift, allowing pain to be interpreted with calmness or acceptance, rather than alarm. At every stage, the emotional world continues to shape the sensory world. Infants depend on soothing, children depend on reassurance, adolescents depend on understanding, adults depend on balance, older adults depend on stability and support. These emotional needs weave themselves into the experience of pain and comfort, making the relationship between sensation and perception deeply human. Because pain is never purely physical, it is always filtered through the mind's awareness, memory, and emotion. It changes as the individual grows, learns, adapts, and continues through life. Another gentle truth emerges when considering pain across the lifespan. The nervous system is always capable of learning. In childhood and adolescence, this learning forms the foundation of sensory interpretation. In adulthood, it allows adaptation to new challenges. In older age, it creates new pathways of understanding, even when physical conditions change. This lifelong capacity for neuroplasticity ensures that perception is never fixed. The body continuously updates its responses, integrating new experiences into its quiet language of sensation. Through this long arc of life, pain serves different roles. For infants, it signals needs. For children, it guides exploration. For adolescents, it shapes resilience. For adults, it encourages balance. For older adults, it reflects the body's history while continuing to guide care. Form of communication. A message shaped not only by nerves and tissues, but by emotion, memory, identity, and shifting internal rhythms. In seeing pain as a lifelong companion rather than a single event, one gains a deeper appreciation for the wisdom of the nervous system. It evolves, adapts, strengthens, softens, and learns, always seeking balance with the world around it. And within this gentle evolution lies the story of a life lived through sensation, continuously unfolding, continuously adapting, and continuously connected to the quiet intelligence of the body. 14. The brain's protective predictions. Within the quiet architecture of the nervous system, the brain does more than simply receive signals from the body, it also anticipates them. It predicts sensations before they happen, prepares responses even before signals arrive, and shapes perception based on expectations formed from past experiences. This predictive quality gives the brain a gentle but persistent influence over how pain and sensation are felt, making each experience not only a reflection of the present moment, but a blend of memory, interpretation, and foresight. Not conscious decisions. They occur beneath awareness, woven into the constant dialogue between the body and mind. Through them, the brain attempts to protect you, soften uncertainty, and maintain stability in a world filled with shifting internal and external cues. One of the key ideas behind pain prediction is that the brain is always trying to minimize surprise. To do this, it relies on patterns learned throughout life. Whenever the body experiences a sensation repeatedly, the brain begins to form expectations. Over time, it becomes efficient at anticipating what a familiar movement, posture, or environment will feel like. This anticipatory system helps keep the body safe by allowing it to respond more quickly to potential threats. Yet it also means that past experiences can shape future perception. If the body once felt pain during a certain action, the brain may predict pain the next time that action is attempted, even if the original cause has healed. This predicted unease can subtly increase tension in the body, create heightened attention, or open the spinal gate slightly. This predictive mechanism becomes even more apparent when considering chronic discomfort. When pain persists for long periods, the brain learns the pattern and begins to anticipate the sensation before it truly arises. the nervous system becomes primed, ready to detect even the faintest signals. This readiness is not a sign of weakness, but of the brain's desire to remain vigilant, to avoid being caught off guard. In this heightened state, the brain may occasionally misinterpret normal sensations, such as gentle movement, mild pressure, or soft stretch, as signals of pain. This misinterpretation can create a loop in which prediction and perception reinforce one another. The brain expects discomfort, notices any sensation that fits the expectation, and strengthens the predictive pathway further. All of this happens quietly, without intention, as part of the brain's effort to reduce uncertainty. Emotion plays a significant role in shaping these predictions. Anxiety, worry, or tension can amplify the brain's protective tendencies, encouraging it to anticipate negative sensations more strongly. When emotional centers become active, they send signals to the spinal cord and sensory regions that modulate the perception of incoming stimuli. These signals can keep the neural gates more open, allowing the brain to detect even mild sensations as though they carry more meaning. In contrast, calm emotional states send signals that soften predictions. When the body feels safe, supported, or comforted, the brain becomes less vigilant, reducing the intensity of protective anticipation. This emotional influence helps explain why moments of rest, connection, or reassurance can significantly soften the experience of pain. Prediction also interacts with attention. When the mind focuses on a certain part of the body, the brain becomes more attuned to sensations in that area. If the focus is accompanied by concern or anticipation of discomfort, the brain may predict pain more readily, creating a subtle increase in sensitivity. Conversely, when attention widens or shifts toward calming, imagery, steady breathing, or soothing external stimuli, the brain's predictive activity can soften. These shifts do not erase sensory input, but they influence how much importance the brain assigns to it. By regulating attention, the mind can gently reshape the predictive landscape, space for sensations to feel quieter and less imposing. One of the most intriguing aspects of the brain's predictive system is its ability to revise itself. Predictions are not fixed. The brain is constantly updating them based on new information. When the body repeatedly experiences movements or sensations that are safe and non-threatening, the brain gradually adjusts its expectations. This process is subtle and slow, but it is deeply powerful. Each gentle movement, each moment of comfort, each experience of ease helps the brain rewrite its predictive signals. Over time, this recalibration can soften the intensity of discomfort and reduce the nervous system's readiness to anticipate pain. The pathways responsible for heightened vigilance begin to quiet themselves, replaced with patterns that reflect safety and confidence. Memory also shapes predictive perception. The brain stores emotional and sensory memories from all stages of life, using them as reference points for future experiences. A memory of a painful injury may influence how the brain interprets sensations in that area long after the tissue has healed. The memories are not reactivated consciously, but the associations linger in the neural pathways. When a sensation echoes a past memory, the brain may anticipate discomfort, yet memory can also soothe. Memories of comfort, warmth, gentle touch, and safety can create calming predictions that soften the perception of discomfort. In this way, the emotional history of the body plays an ongoing role in shaping how sensations feel today. The environment, too, influences the brain's predictions. Quiet surroundings, warm lighting, familiar spaces, and slow rhythms signal safety to the nervous system, encouraging predictive pathways to relax. In contrast, environments filled with noise, unpredictability, or emotional tension may cause the brain to remain alert, keeping its sensory gates slightly more open. This interplay between environment and expectation reflects the nervous system's deep connection to context, listening to the world around it, using every cue it can find to determine how protective it should be. What makes prediction especially fascinating is that it is both protective and creative. It shields the body from harm, yet it also shapes perception in ways that can either intensify or soften discomfort. When the brain predicts pain, it prepares the body accordingly. Muscles may tense, breathing may change, posture may shift. These small adjustments can influence how sensations are felt, sometimes amplifying them. But when the brain predicts safety, the opposite occurs. Breathing slows, and the nervous system becomes less reactive. This gentle shift can help close the spinal gates slightly, reducing incoming signals before they reach awareness. The idea of prediction highlights the fluidity of perception. Pain is not simply a message traveling from the body to the brain. It is a dialogue shaped by expectation, emotion, memory, environment, and moment-to-moment interpretation. This understanding brings a sense of compassion toward the body. It shows that discomfort is not a sign of weakness or malfunction, but often a reflection of the brain's attempt to protect and prepare. And because these predictions are adaptable, the nervous system retains the capacity to soften and heal. Through this lens, pain becomes less of an isolated sensation and more of a dynamic process, one that shifts as the brain gathers new information, learns new patterns, and revises old expectations. This continuous evolution reveals the quiet intelligence of the nervous system, an intelligence that guides perception with care, caution, and an ever-present willingness to recalibrate. In recognizing this, one can approach pain not with fear but with gentle curiosity, understanding that the body is always in conversation with itself, always listening, and always capable of adapting to the soft rhythms of change. 15. The quiet influence of the environment. Every moment of sensory experience unfolds within an environment, and although the environment may seem like a simple backdrop, it shapes pain and perception in ways that are both gentle and profound. The body is never isolated from its surroundings. Instead, it continuously listens, taking note of light, temperature, sound, movement, and even the presence of other people. These subtle cues guide the nervous system, helping it decide whether to stay vigilant, whether to soften, or whether to drift into deeper states of calm. Through this ongoing interaction, the environment becomes part of the sensory story, influencing how signals are interpreted and how pain is perceived. The influence of the environment begins with the most basic elements, such as temperature and lighting. It encourages muscles to loosen, slows breathing, and promotes the release of soothing neurotransmitters. A warm environment tells the brain that the body is safe, allowing it to reduce its protective vigilance. This shift can gently close some of the spinal gates involved in pain perception, softening discomfort. Coolness, when gentle, offers clarity and freshness, helping the mind feel awake without triggering a strong stress response. Bright lighting may sharpen awareness, while soft, dim lighting encourages relaxation. These sensory environments shape the emotional tone of perception long before the conscious mind becomes aware of their influence. Sound also plays a crucial role in shaping sensation. Sudden, sharp noises can activate the brain's alerting systems, increasing tension and making the nervous system more reactive. Even if the noise does not carry meaning, the body may interpret it as a potential threat, opening sensory gates slightly and heightening awareness. In contrast, steady, rhythmic sounds like quiet rainfall, gentle wind, or steady breathing communicate safety. They remind the nervous system of predictable patterns, allowing it to ease its vigilance. These calming sounds help soften the brain's predictions about pain, creating space for sensations to feel less intense and more distant. In silence, the body often becomes more aware of its internal world, and while this can bring clarity, it can also make discomfort feel louder if the emotional landscape is tense. Soft background sounds create a delicate bridge between inner and outer worlds, helping balance awareness. The presence of other people shapes perception even more subtly. Human beings are deeply social creatures, and the nervous system is wired to respond to signals of support or threat within social environments. A calm, reassuring presence can soften the experience of discomfort, not through words alone, but through the quiet cues exchanged between bodies. The brain detects these cues, posture, tone, pace of movement, and interprets them as signs of safety. When the environment feels socially supportive, the emotional centers of the brain soften, reducing the intensity of pain signals. Conversely, environments marked by tension, conflict, or uncertainty can heighten sensitivity. Even the absence of support may leave the nervous system more alert, amplifying sensations that might otherwise feel mild. Nature, in its many forms, offers one of the most profoundly calming environments for the nervous system. The body responds to natural settings, trees, water, open sky, as though they are ancient signals of safety. The visual rhythm of branches, the sound of leaves moving in the wind. These cues reduce physiological arousal, soften muscle tension, and encourage the brain to lower its protective guard. Even images of natural environments or gentle reminders of them can influence perception, guiding the brain toward states of ease that reduce the intensity of pain. The environment inside the body is equally influential. Hunger, hydration, sleep quality, and movement create internal ecosystems that interact with external ones. When the body is well nourished and rested, its internal environment becomes more balanced, making the nervous system less reactive. Poor sleep, for instance, can heighten sensitivity because it disrupts neurotransmitter balance and increases overall vigilance. Gentle movement improves circulation and promotes the release of calming chemicals, making discomfort feel less acute. These internal environmental cues work alongside external ones, forming a complete sensory atmosphere that shapes perception. A significant part of the environment's influence lies in its ability to shape the brain's predictions. When surroundings are consistent and calming, the brain anticipates comfort and safety. These predictions soften the interpretation of incoming signals, allowing the nervous system to modulate pain with more ease. When the environment is unpredictable or demanding, the brain may anticipate strain or discomfort, making sensations feel sharper. These anticipatory patterns reflect the brain's effort to prepare the body for what might come next, guided by subtle cues in the environment. Even small details such as textures, colors, and movement contribute to this sensory story. Soft fabrics against the skin can create a sense of ease, signaling comfort through both touch and emotion. Smooth, slow motions in the environment, like the sway of curtains or the movement of shadows, encourage the brain to shift into a more relaxed rhythm. Conversely, environments filled with abrupt movements or sharp edges may keep the brain slightly more alert, influencing how sensations are interpreted. The nervous system is sensitive to these details not because it overreacts, but because it evolved to gather information from every direction, quietly guiding perception to maintain safety and well-being. The influence of environment becomes especially clear in moments of rest. When a person settles into a peaceful space, a dim room, a comfortable surface, quiet surroundings, the nervous system gradually transitions into a softer state. Muscles loosen, breathing deepens, and the spinal gates begin to close slightly. In this state, even sensations that might feel intense during stressful moments can soften and drift into the background. This shift demonstrates the environment's gentle ability to guide the nervous system into states of calm. Perhaps the most comforting truth about the environment's role in perception is that it offers opportunities for change. Sensations are felt, A quiet corner, a warm blanket, a gentle light, or a soothing sound can help create an atmosphere in which the nervous system feels supported. In such an environment, pain signals may not vanish, but they lose their sharpness, settling into a quieter rhythm. Through this lens, the environment becomes not just a backdrop, but an active participant in the experience of sensation. It shapes how the brain predicts, interprets, and responds to signals. It influences emotional tone, physical comfort, and the level of nervous system vigilance. And within these influences lies the quiet truth that perception is not fixed. It is responsive, adaptable, and deeply connected to the world that surrounds the body. 16. Movement, stillness, and the body's changing signals. Movement and stillness form two of the most fundamental rhythms of the human experience, and yet they influence pain and perception in ways that are often overlooked. Each gesture, each posture, each pause shifts the flow of signals within the nervous system. Movement awakens certain pathways while calming others, and stillness invites a different kind of awareness, one that can either soothe or amplify, depending on the body's internal state. To understand this interplay is to recognize how deeply sensation is shaped by the changing landscape of the body's position, activity, and quiet moments. When the body moves, countless receptors throughout the muscles, joints, and connective tissues begin to activate. These receptors are sensitive to stretch, tension, pressure, and motion. They send a steady stream of information into the spinal cord and onward to the brain, helping the nervous system form an accurate picture of posture and balance. This influx of proprioceptive input often has a calming effect on the body. It reassures the brain that the body is active, engaged, and functioning as expected. In response, the nervous system may reduce its vigilance, gently adjusting the spinal gates associated with pain perception. This is one reason why slow, gentle movement such as stretching or walking can diminish discomfort. The movement itself becomes a form of communication, reminding the nervous system of its own resilience and adaptability. However, movement can also influence pain through mechanical means. When tissues become stiff from inactivity or prolonged posture, the muscles around them may tighten to provide stability. This tension can create sensations of discomfort or aching. Movement encourages blood flow, delivering oxygen and nutrients to areas that may have become stagnant. It also helps clear metabolic byproducts that accumulate in tissues when they remain still for long periods. This restoration of circulation softens the tissue environment, allowing nerves to settle and reducing the likelihood that the brain will interpret signals as threatening. Different kinds of movement influence the nervous system in different ways. Slow, rhythmic motion tends to calm and regulate sensory pathways. Fluid movements such as gentle stretching, slow walking, or mindful shifting of posture activate proprioceptive signals that soothe emotional centers and reduce overall vigilance. More rapid or intense movement can heighten alertness, increasing the flow of stimulating neurotransmitters. Yet even these more energetic motions can soften pain by releasing endorphins, warming the muscles, and easing tension. The key lies not in moving constantly, but in allowing the body to experience a variety of rhythms: fast, slow, fluid, and still, each contributing to the nervous system's adaptive balance. Stillness, by contrast, offers a different kind of sensory experience. In moments of complete rest, the nervous system becomes more attuned to internal signals. Breathing becomes more noticeable. The heartbeat may rise gently into awareness, and sensations in the muscles and joints may become more pronounced. This heightened perception is natural. It reflects the brain's shift from processing external information to focusing inward. Stillness can be soothing when the body and mind are calm, allowing the nervous system to drift into deeper states of restoration. But if emotional tension or physical strain is present, stillness may amplify discomfort. The absence of movement leaves the nervous system without the calming influence of proprioceptive input, allowing discomfort to rise into awareness more easily. The contrast between movement and stillness becomes even more significant in the context of chronic pain. When discomfort persists for long periods, the nervous system may develop a preference for certain forms of movement or certain patterns of rest. Some people find that gentle, continuous motion is necessary to keep discomfort at bay, while prolonged stillness increases sensitivity. Others may require periods of deep rest to allow the nervous system to recalibrate. These preferences are not arbitrary, they reflect the unique interplay between the body's tissues, emotional state, and learned patterns of neural activation. Over time, the nervous system develops rhythms that feel stabilizing, and these rhythms become essential tools for managing discomfort. Posture plays an equally important role in shaping pain perception. The way the body holds itself during movement or stillness can influence how signals are generated and interpreted. Slouched or strained positions may compress certain tissues or create tension in the muscles, leading to signals that the brain may interpret as discomfort. Upright, balanced postures allow the body to distribute weight more evenly, reducing strain on individual structures. The brain subtly monitors these postural cues, interpreting them as signs of stability or instability. When the body is aligned, the nervous system feels supported. When the body is strained, the nervous system may increase vigilance, heightening sensitivity to incoming signals. The emotional quality of movement also influences perception. When movement is performed with ease, curiosity, or calm intention, the nervous system receives signals of safety. This reduces the likelihood that the brain will interpret ambiguous sensations as threatening. When movement is rushed, tense, or performed under stress, the nervous system may increase its protective responses, making discomfort feel more pronounced. Emotional tone communicates with the body through subtle shifts in muscle tension, attention. The nervous system interprets these shifts, adjusting the spinal gates and brain pathways involved in pain perception. Breath, though often overlooked, is one of the most powerful forms of internal movement. Each inhale lifts and expands the body, activating sensory receptors throughout the chest and abdomen. Each exhale releases tension and encourages relaxation. Slow, steady breathing increases the activity of the parasympathetic nervous system. Rapid or shallow breathing can have the opposite effect, increasing alertness and sensitivity. Because breathing is both voluntary and automatic, it serves as a bridge between movement and stillness, offering a way to influence perception even without shifting posture. Stillness offers its own pathways to comfort when approached gently. When the body is supported by a comfortable surface and the environment is calm and familiar, stillness can allow the nervous system to settle deeply. Muscles relax, the heart rate slows, and the brain's predictive systems shift into a quieter mode. In these moments, discomfort may fade into the background, replaced by a soft awareness of rest. Stillness becomes restorative when it is accompanied by a sense of safety, supported by soothing surroundings and a calm, emotional landscape. Yet movement and stillness are not opposites, they are partners. The body relies on both to maintain balance. Movement refreshes tissues, awakens pathways, and reassures the nervous system. Stillness provides space for integration, restoration, and emotional settling. Through the interplay of these two states, the nervous system learns how to regulate itself, how to respond to changes, and how to maintain harmony between sensation and perception. In this gentle balance lies the quiet wisdom of the body. Pain softens when the nervous system feels supported, whether through the calming rhythm of movement, the grounding presence of stillness, or the steady flow of breath between the two. By understanding how these states influence the sensory world, one can navigate discomfort with patience and care, allowing the body to find its own calm rhythm within the larger landscape of experience. 17. Sleep, restoration, and the softening of pain. As day gradually gives way to night, the body enters one of its most restorative rhythms, sleep. This quiet transition holds a gentle power over the nervous system, affecting not only energy and memory but also the way pain and sensation are perceived. Sleep is not merely the absence of wakefulness. It is a state of deep internal organization, one in which the brain rewrites patterns, regulates chemicals, and allows tissues throughout the body to rest and repair. Because pain is shaped by emotion, neurotransmitters, prediction, and physical condition, the influence of sleep reaches into every corner of the sensory world. It softens signals, calms, vigilance, and gives the nervous system time to reset. In this soft resetting, pain often changes, sometimes easing, sometimes revealing itself in new ways, always reflecting the delicate rhythms of the body at rest. During wakefulness, the brain spends much of its energy processing incoming information. Signals from the eyes, ears, muscles, skin, and internal organs flow continuously, and the brain must sort, prioritize, and interpret them. Even mild stress or distraction can increase the intensity of this activity, making the nervous system more reactive. When night arrives and sleep begins, the flow of sensory information decelerates. External stimuli become less vivid, and the brain turns its attention inward. This shift alone can reduce the intensity of pain signals, because the brain is no longer amplifying them with layers of attention or emotional interpretation. The gates within the spinal cord may close more easily, and the mind's predictions of discomfort may soften. Sleep unfolds in cycles, each bringing its own effects on pain perception. In the lighter stages, the body begins to relax. Muscle tension decreases, heart rate slows, and breathing deepens. These changes signal the nervous system to lower its level of vigilance. Even if pain is present, the emotional centers of the brain become less reactive, reducing the tendency to anticipate or magnify discomfort. As the body moves into deeper stages of sleep, the effects become more pronounced. Deep sleep is when the most significant physical restoration occurs. During this time, the body repairs tissues, reduces inflammation, and replenishes neurotransmitters that help modulate pain. Growth hormone is released, supporting cellular repair, while stress hormones decrease, allowing the nervous system to calm itself. This stage, which often feels like the body drifting far from the waking world, provides a natural buffer against pain, helping the nervous system rebuild its equilibrium. Another stage of sleep, REM sleep, brings its own form of restoration. During REM, the brain becomes active in patterns similar to wakefulness, yet the body remains still, protected by a temporary loss of muscle tone. This combination creates a space where emotional memories can be processed without physical interference. Because pain perception is deeply tied to emotion, this processing often influences how discomfort is felt the next day. If the brain resolves or softens emotional tension during REM sleep, the nervous system may interpret pain more gently the following morning. The brain's predictive pathways, those that anticipate discomfort based on emotion or memory, may loosen their grip, reducing sensitivity. REM sleep also helps integrate experiences, blending the physical and emotional layers of the day into more stable patterns. When sleep becomes disrupted, however, pain often becomes more pronounced. Poor sleep interferes with the body's ability to regulate neurotransmitters such as serotonin, dopamine, GABA, and the natural opioids that help dampen pain. Without sufficient restoration, the spinal gates may remain more open, allowing signals to pass upward more easily. Emotional centers may remain more reactive, increasing vigilance. Subtle sleep disturbances can heighten the nervous system's sensitivity. Over time, Chronic lack of sleep can create a cycle in which pain disrupts rest, and disrupted rest increases pain. This interplay does not mean the body is failing. It simply reflects how tightly connected sleep and sensation are. Still, even short moments of restful sleep can help recalibrate the nervous system. A brief nap, a half hour of drifting, or even slow breathing that simulates the rhythm of early sleep can lower vigilance and soften discomfort. The nervous system responds quickly to moments of calm, adjusting chemical balances and allowing muscle tension to decrease. These small restorative phases act almost like miniature resets, giving the brain a chance to step back from the continuous interpretation of sensory signals. When repeated regularly, they help the body build a stronger foundation for deeper rest. Dreams add another layer to this story. While they may seem distant from the world of physical sensation, they allow the brain to explore ideas and feelings safely without activating the full intensity of waking emotion. Because pain perception is shaped so heavily by emotional tone, dreams can leave subtle impressions that alter how the nervous system interprets discomfort. A peaceful dream may help the mind wake with a sense of ease, while an anxious dream may increase sensitivity. The content of dreams is not always precise or logical, but their emotional residue can influence perception gently throughout the day. Stillness during sleep also plays a unique role in shaping pain. When the body is at rest, tissues that have been strained during the day may begin to send signals of stiffness or soreness. The absence of movement allows the nervous system to detect these internal states more clearly. This is why some people feel discomfort more vividly in the quiet moments before sleep or upon waking. These sensations do not represent new injuries. They simply reflect the body's natural awareness returning after a shift in physical activity. Gentle movement, stretching, or warmth often helps restore comfort by reactivating proprioceptive pathways and soothing the nervous system. The environment in which sleep occurs shapes this process in subtle but meaningful ways. Soft lighting, comfortable temperatures, quiet surroundings, and familiar spaces all encourage the nervous system to relax. These environmental signals communicate safety, allowing the brain's predictive systems to soften. When the environment feels calm, the body enters sleep more easily, and the depth of rest becomes richer. Even the presence of comforting textures, such as warm blankets or soft clothing, contributes to the sensory atmosphere that supports restorative sleep. One of the most comforting truths about sleep is that it does not need to be perfect to support healing. The nervous system adapts even to imperfection. A few hours of deep rest, moments of drifting between waking and dreaming, or brief periods of calm breathing can all contribute to restoring balance. The body is gentle with itself. It finds ways to repair, soften, and recalibrate even when sleep is fragmented. In this understanding, sleep becomes more than a nightly ritual. It becomes a partner in pain modulation, a natural source of balance and restoration. It reminds the nervous system of its ability to soften, to quiet itself, and to let go of the constant vigilance that shapes waking perception. In the soft darkness of rest, pain loses some of its sharpness, and the body finds its way back to equilibrium, guided by the quiet intelligence of sleep and the deep rhythms of restoration. 18. The mind's gentle influence on sensation. Every moment of sensation experienced by the bestower body is touched, shaped, and softened by the mind. Even though pain begins with physical signals rising from tissues, joints, or nerves, its final form, the feeling that reaches awareness, is crafted through countless quiet processes within the brain. Thoughts, memories, beliefs, expectations, and subtle emotional tones all weave themselves into the perception of discomfort. Instead of being a passive receiver, the mind acts as an artist, tinting each sensation with its own interpretations. This gentle interplay between body and mind forms one of the most intricate aspects of human experience, making pain not simply a physical message, but a reflection of the entire internal landscape. The mind influences pain first through attention. When attention narrows toward a particular sensation, perhaps because it is unfamiliar or unexpected, the brain amplifies the signal. Neurons, responsible for processing pain, become more active, increasing the sensation's clarity. The gates in the spinal cord may remain more open, allowing stronger signals to rise toward the brain. The emotional centers become more alert, interpreting the focused attention as a sign that the sensation may carry importance. The more the mind watches, the louder the sensation becomes. Yet the opposite is also true. When attention softens, widening to include breath, sound, warmth, or gentle imagery, the brain reduces the intensity of pain signals. Neural activity spreads into broader networks, diluting the sharpness of discomfort and allowing it to drift into the background. This shift does not erase pain, but reframes it, gently altering how much space it occupies within awareness. Thoughts and beliefs also play a significant role in shaping perception. When the mind interprets a sensation as dangerous, threatening, or indicative of harm, the nervous system responds with heightened vigilance. Muscles tense, breathing becomes shallow, and the emotional centers become more reactive. The brain's predictive pathways begin to anticipate pain, opening sensory gates more widely and making the body more sensitive. This pattern often forms unconsciously, shaped by past experiences or moments when discomfort truly did signal injury. Yet when the mind views a sensation as temporary, understandable, muscles loosen, breathing deepens, and the predictive pathways become less reactive. The brain reduces its amplification of pain, allowing the sensation to feel quieter. Beliefs create a subtle framework that the nervous system uses to interpret every incoming signal. The emotional landscape surrounding a sensation also shapes its intensity. When feelings of calmness, safety, connection, or contentment are present, the nervous system becomes less reactive. Descending pathways from the brain release soothing neurotransmitters, endorphins, serotonin, and GABA that help dampen pain signals. These chemicals interact with neurons in the spinal cord, closing the gates slightly and reducing the strength of upward traveling impulses. As a result, discomfort may feel gentler or more distant. In contrast, when emotions such as fear, stress, or sadness are present, the nervous system becomes more vigilant. Stress hormones circulate, increasing sensitivity. The spinal gates may open wider. Even mild sensations may feel heightened. This does not mean the pain is imagined. Rather, it reveals that emotional states influence how signals are processed. Memories also contribute to the mind's influence on perception. The brain stores emotional and physical memories of past sensations, creating templates that shape future experiences. When a new sensation resembles a previous one, especially one tied to discomfort, the brain may interpret it through the lens of memory. Predictive pathways activate more quickly, expecting pain before the full signal even arrives. This anticipation can heighten sensitivity, yet positive memories have the opposite effect. Memories of comfort, relief, or resilience can soften perception, encouraging the brain to interpret new sensations with less urgency. This interplay between memory and perception reflects the nervous system's constant effort to make sense of the present, using information from the past. Imagination adds another layer to this dynamic. The brain does not fully distinguish between imagined and real sensory experiences. When the mind imagines calmness, a warm light, a gentle breeze, a quiet forest, the brain activates networks involved in comfort and safety. These networks influence emotional centers, muscle tone, and breathing. They even affect how pain pathways operate. By imagining soothing scenarios, the mind can gently guide the nervous system into a state in which pain feels less intrusive. This capacity is not fanciful. It is rooted in the brain's architecture. Imagery stimulates sensory and emotional circuits, allowing the mind to create internal environments that support comfort. The mind also shapes perception through interpretation. The brain does not simply receive pain signals, it evaluates them, asking questions that occur beneath awareness. Is this sensation dangerous? Has it happened before? What context is it occurring in? How should I respond? These questions guide the brain's response. A sharp sensation during exercise may be interpreted as normal exertion, causing little emotional reaction. The same sharp sensation during rest may feel alarming, intensifying the experience. The context formed by the mind where the body is, what it is doing, what is expected determines how strongly pain is felt. Language further shapes sensation. The words used internally to describe discomfort influence emotional responses and neural activation. Gentle descriptions, pressure, tension, tightness, warmth lead to softer emotional interpretations. Harsh or alarming descriptions, painful, severe, sharp, can heighten vigilance. The brain responds not only to the signal, but to the meaning attached to it. By choosing gentle language, the mind helps the nervous system settle, reducing the amplification of pain. Cognitive habits, too, influence how pain is perceived. The brain often develops patterns of thought that repeat themselves, patterns of worry, patterns of reassurance, patterns of catastrophizing, or patterns of calm. These habits act like well-worn paths through the neural landscape. When a familiar thought arises, this is going to get worse, or I can handle this, it triggers neural circuits associated with those beliefs. The emotional centers respond accordingly. The spinal gates adjust. The perception of pain changes. Because these thought patterns are learned, they can also be relearned with new experiences of comfort, calm, and safety. The mind develops different pathways, which gradually shape new responses within the body. Another significant influence arises from the mind's sense of control. When a person feels they have ways to soothe themselves through breathing, movement, rest, heat, or imagery, the nervous system becomes less reactive. The brain interprets discomfort with less alarm, reducing its amplification of pain. A sense of helplessness has the opposite effect, making the nervous system more vigilant. Control does not mean eliminating pain. It means knowing that the body has ways to soften it. This confidence alone reduces sensitivity because the nervous system trusts that relief is possible. Even the pace of thought influences perception. Rapid, busy thinking can heighten sensitivity by increasing overall arousal in the nervous system. Slow, spacious thinking, or quiet moments with no thoughts at all allow the body to settle. The brain shifts into different rhythms, releasing chemicals associated with calmness. These internal rhythms affect muscle tone, breathing, and the way sensory signals are interpreted. In this sense, the pace of the mind becomes part of the sensory environment within the body. The most comforting truth in all of this is that the mind and body are always communicating, always adjusting, always learning from one another. Pain is not a rigid message, but a fluid perception shaped by countless influences, thoughts, emotions, memories, imagination, attention, and beliefs. Because the mind is adaptable, perception is adaptable. The nervous system can soften its responses with time, calmness, and gentle experiences that reshape expectations. Understanding this connection creates space for compassion toward oneself. Failure, or a purely physical burden, it is part of a larger conversation within the body, a conversation that responds to warmth, to stillness, to movement, to breath, and to the quiet influence of the mind. 19. The interplay of stress, calm, and perception. Throughout the rhythms of daily life, the body is continuously shaped by two opposing but equally important forces, stress and calm. These forces influence everything from heart rate to muscle tone, from breathing patterns to the release of hormones, and perhaps most subtly, the way pain and sensation are perceived. Stress is often thought of as a sudden burst of tension, but within the nervous system, it takes many forms, some obvious and others so quiet that they drift beneath awareness. Calmness, on the other hand, is not simply the absence of stress. It is an active physiological state, one in which the body shifts into restoration, balance, and gentle regulation. The interplay between these states creates a dynamic background against which all sensations are interpreted, shaping the experience of pain moment by moment. Stress begins as a protective response. It is rooted in the body's natural desire to keep itself safe. When the brain detects something, it interprets as a demand or threat, whether physical, emotional, or situational. It activates a complex system known as the stress response. This signals the release of hormones such as cortisol and adrenaline, which prepare the body for action. Heart rate increases, breathing becomes quicker, muscles tighten, and the mind sharpens its focus. These changes are not harmful by themselves. They are designed to help the body respond efficiently, yet they also affect how pain signals are processed. When stress hormones circulate, system becomes more alert, opening the sensory gates within the spinal cord and making pain signals feel stronger. The stress response also heightens the activity of the amygdala, the part of the brain associated with emotional significance. When the amygdala becomes more active, it interprets sensations through a lens of caution. A mild ache may feel more intense, and the brain may predict discomfort even before it arrives. This heightened vigilance can create a loop where stress increases the perception of pain, and pain increases stress, each amplifying the other. This loop does not develop out of weakness, but out of the nervous system's instinct to protect. Over time, however, it can lead to a pattern in which the body remains more reactive than necessary, maintaining a state of readiness even in moments of quiet. Calmness, in contrast, arises when the nervous system shifts into the parasympathetic state, often called the rest and restore mode. In this state, heart rate slows, breathing deepens, muscles release tension, and the mind broadens its focus. The body interprets this shift as a sign that it is safe. During calmness, the brain sends descending signals that help close the spinal gates associated with pain, reducing the intensity of incoming signals before they reach awareness. Neurotransmitters such as serotonin, GABA, and endorphins become more active, soothing the nervous system and softening the perception of discomfort. Calmness is not simply a pleasant feeling. It is a physiological condition that reorganizes the body's response to sensation. The alternation between stress and calm is part of the natural rhythm of life. Neither state is inherently negative. Both serve essential purposes. Stress helps the body respond to challenges, while calmness helps it recover. The difficulty arises when the balance between the two shifts too far in one direction. When stress becomes chronic, the nervous system may lose its ability to return fully to a calm baseline, keeping the body in a heightened state of vigilance. Pain becomes more noticeable. Muscles may remain tense. Breathing may become shallow without awareness. Even thoughts may take on a sharper, more urgent tone. These subtle shifts accumulate, influencing how the brain interprets physical signals. The opposite imbalance can also occur. Access when the body remains busy, distracted, or emotionally unsettled, the nervous system lacks the restorative moments needed to regulate itself. Pain may linger longer than expected, simply because the chemical and physical processes that typically soften it are delayed. The body, in this state, functions with limited restorative resources, making discomfort feel more persistent. This is why moments of stillness, deep rest, or gentle sensory experiences can be so powerful. They allow the nervous system to return to balance, recalibrating its responses. Breathing acts as one of the most immediate bridges between stress and calm. The body prepares for potential challenge, increasing tension and heightening sensitivity. When breath becomes slow and steady, the opposite occurs. The vagus nerve becomes more active, encouraging the body to enter a calmer state. Heart rate decreases, muscles soften, and the brain releases neurotransmitters associated with ease. In this calmer state, the spinal gates close more effectively, diminishing the intensity of pain signals. The simple rhythm of breath becomes a quiet regulator of perception. Stress also influences posture and muscle tone. When the body is tense, shoulders lifted, jaw tight, back stiff, nerves within the muscles send signals to the spinal cord that something may be amiss. Over time, these signals create a background hum of sensory input that can heighten the perception of pain. Calmness, accompanied by loose shoulders, relaxed breathing, and gentle posture, reduces this stream of signals. Muscles communicate softness rather than tension. Response: pain signals may soften, becoming less prominent within awareness. Emotional experiences contribute deeply to this interplay. Stressful thoughts, worry, fear, anticipation activate the brain's protective mechanisms, increasing sensitivity. Calm thoughts, acceptance, reassurance, gratitude soften neural responses. The nervous system listens to these emotional cues, shaping sensation accordingly. Even subtle shifts in emotion can influence perception. A moment of feeling understood, supported, or cared for can reduce the intensity of discomfort. Reflects how closely emotional and physical pathways intertwine within the brain. Importantly, the nervous system remains adaptable throughout life. Even after prolonged periods of stress, the body retains the ability to restore balance. Calmness can return through small, steady experiences, quiet breathing, warm surroundings, gentle movement, the presence of supportive people, or peaceful imagery. Each moment of calm teaches the nervous system a new pattern, helping it relearn how to soften its vigilance. Over time, these patterns become stronger, and the interplay between stress and calm becomes more balanced. The environment plays a subtle role in this cycle as well. Noisy, bright, or unpredictable surroundings can increase stress, heightening sensory sensitivity. Quiet, warm, dim, or familiar environments encourage calmness, reducing tension and softening perception. The body interprets environmental cues instinctively, adjusting its internal state accordingly. This responsiveness allows the nervous system to remain flexible, adapting moment by moment to the world around it. At the heart of this interplay lies a reassuring truth. Pain is not simply a fixed signal, but a reflection of the body's current state. When stress rises, pain often rises with it. When calmness returns, pain often softens. The nervous system is not rigid, it is always responding, adjusting, and seeking balance. This gentle adaptability means that even persistent discomfort can change, easing alongside emotional and physiological shifts. Understanding this dynamic brings compassion to the experience of pain. It reveals that discomfort is not a sign of fragility, but a reflection of the nervous system's effort to protect. And because the nervous system can be soothed, supported, and guided toward calmness, perception can shift, pain can lighten, the body can settle. And through these soft transitions, the interplay of stress and calm becomes not a struggle, but a rhythm, one that the body learns to navigate with increasing ease, guided by the gentle intelligence within. 20. Pain as communication. The body's language of awareness. Pain, though often unwelcome, is one of the body's most honest forms of communication. It speaks through sensation rather than words, guiding awareness toward areas that need attention, care, or understanding. When viewed gently, pain becomes less of an enemy and more of a message, one shaped not only by physical changes in the body, but by the emotional, cognitive, and environmental landscape surrounding it. This message is not abrupt or forceful. Instead, It unfolds like a quiet dialogue, inviting the mind to listen, interpret, and respond. In this way, pain becomes part of the body's natural conversation with itself, a conversation aimed not at causing distress, but at restoring balance. Pain often begins as a protective signal. When tissues experience strain, inflammation, or irritation, sensory receptors send signals to the nervous system. These signals act as a reminder that something within the body needs awareness. But the message of pain becomes far more complex once it enters the brain. There, emotion, memory, prediction, and interpretation all converge to give the sensation its final meaning. What the body intended as a gentle nudge can sometimes feel amplified because of stress, concern, or uncertainty. This amplification does not mean the pain is exaggerated. It reflects how deeply interconnected the sensory and emotional systems are. The body uses pain to guide behavior, though not through force. Instead, it nudges gently by influencing movement, posture, and rest. When discomfort appears during a certain action, the nervous system encourages a pause or adjustment. This pause is protective, giving tissues the opportunity to recover. Over time, the mind learns to understand these signals intuitively. A sharp ache may suggest the need for gentler motion. A dull heaviness may indicate fatigue or tension. A pulsing sensation may reflect inflammation. These distinctions are subtle, and though not always precise, they help the body regulate itself. Yet the message of pain is not always tied directly to injury. Sometimes the nervous system becomes sensitized, sending stronger signals even in the absence of harm. In these moments, pain communicates not damage, but heightened awareness. It reveals that the nervous system is alert, watchful, and perhaps in need of reassurance. This form of pain often emerges during periods of emotional stress, lack of sleep, or physical strain. The body, sensing instability in its environment or internal state, increases its sensitivity to encourage caution. The message becomes, slow down, breathe, find calmness. Nervous system receives these calming cues through rest, warmth, breath, or gentle movement. The sensitivity softens, and the message changes. Pain also communicates through patterns. Recurrent discomfort may reflect habits in posture, movement, or emotional response. For example, tension held in the shoulders may be expressed as a steady ache that appears during moments of stress. The ache becomes the body's way of saying that strain is accumulating. Similarly, discomfort in the lower back may reflect prolonged stillness, encouraging the body to shift into motion. These patterns are not warnings of harm. They are reminders that the body thrives in balance between activity and rest, between effort and ease. Throughout life, the body refines its language of pain based on experience. Childhood teaches early interpretations, linking certain sensations with emotional reactions. Adolescence adds complexity, as hormones influence sensitivity and awareness. Adulthood brings patterns shaped by work, relationships, and responsibilities. Older age reveals different expressions of discomfort, often tied to changes in tissues and circulation. Phases. Pain remains a reliable communicator, its message enriched, not diminished, by the body's evolving history. Pain also interacts with the environment, forming a language shaped by context. A sensation felt in a quiet, calm space may feel soft and manageable, while the same sensation in a crowded or stressful environment may feel sharper. This difference arises because the nervous system listens to both the internal and external world simultaneously. When the outer world feels safe, the inner signals soften. When the outer world feels loud or unpredictable, inner signals become more urgent. Pain communicates not only the state of the body, but the state of the environment as perceived through the body. Another aspect of pain's communication lies in its ability to quiet itself when understood. When the mind listens with calm curiosity, observing the sensation without fear, the nervous system interprets this response as reassurance. Emotional centers settle, stress hormones decrease, and the spinal gates begin to close slightly. Pain may not disappear, but it becomes less insistent. The body recognizes that its message has been received and no longer needs to amplify it. This creates a sense of partnership between body and mind. The body also uses pain to signal boundaries: how far to stretch, how much to lift, how long to sit, when to rest. These boundaries are not rigid but adaptable. When the body grows stronger, pain softens. When tissues become strained, pain grows more noticeable. This feedback loop allows the body to adjust its behavior to maintain balance. It is a quiet form of guidance, helping prevent overexertion and supporting gradual growth. Even chronic pain, though often difficult, carries messages. Sometimes it reflects an ongoing cycle of sensitivity within the nervous system. Sometimes it reveals emotional patterns that have settled into physical form. Sometimes it arises from changes in tissues that take time to heal. In every case, chronic pain communicates the need for sustained attention, not in a fearful sense, but with steady, compassionate curiosity. The nervous system in these moments benefits from consistent signals of safety, warmth, and calmness. Over time, these signals can help rewire predictive pathways, reducing sensitivity and softening the intensity of the message. Pain's role as communication becomes even clearer when considering how easily it shifts with changes in the body's internal environment. After restful sleep, pain often feels lighter. After moments of stress, it may feel sharper. After gentle movement, it often softens. After stillness, it may briefly increase before settling. These fluctuations are not random. They reflect how the nervous system adjusts its communication to reflect the body's current needs. The language of pain is dynamic, adapting constantly to guide the body toward balance. Ultimately, pain is a form of awareness. It brings attention to the body, drawing focus inward. It invites the mind to notice areas that require care. Though uncomfortable, pain is deeply intertwined with the body's capacity for healing. It is a gentle reminder of the body's presence, its vulnerability, and its strength. When understood as communication rather than punishment, pain becomes less isolating. It becomes a message spoken in the quiet language of sensation, a language the body has used since its earliest moments, a language that continues to adapt as life unfolds, and a language that guides the body toward equilibrium and gentle restoration.